Welcome to a place for those in search of truth and conviction, a place where we discuss culture, politics, philosophy, and everything in between. I'm Luke, and I'm here with Russ. This is Hardly Strictly Politics.
Hell yes, dear listener, the HSP boys are back in the saddle once again for episode number 42. Thank you so much for jumping in the saddle with us. This is HSP's transition show, dear listener, blazing the trail into our second year. 2 separate continents, 2 separate countries, 2 separate adult beverages, just to make it fair, and 2 separate cups of coffee, 2 separate fact shamings, 2 separate trails to the same inevitable conclusion. 42, dear listener. 42 is a mystical number, a chronic number, an oblong number. The answer is 42, dear listener. The answer to the ultimate question, the universe, and everything. White Christmas by Bing Crosby came out in 1942 when the average price for a house was about $3,800 USD. Victory in Midway in 1942. 42 gallons in a barrel of oil. Speaking of 42, let me tell you something, dear listener. The HSP boys will whoop your ass at a game of 42, and I mean it, the dominoes game. And so the challenge is levied. We dare you, dear listener. We double dog dare you. But right now, we got some business. We got a trail to blaze together, dear listener. Stronger together. And you know what that means? We got 42 miles ahead of us. 42 miles to ride before we pitch camp at the end of this trail and play a game of 42 around our campfire. So let's not tarry. Let's saddle up and ride into episode number 42, which is in the house presently. Find us on Facebook at Zero Gravity Med. Same thing on Twitter at Zero Gravity Med. Send us email at feedback@zero-gravity.com. That's feedback@zero-gravity-media.com. I butchered it the first time. Sorry about that, dear listener. Subscribe to us on iTunes, Stitcher, SoundCloud, and tune in, all 4 under Zero Gravity Media. And as I said last night on Bots, Thoughts, and Drops number 10, dear listener, if the HSP boys might prevail a favor, hit subscribe in iTunes in the podcast app. And we suggest that you leave us a 5-star rating, just a respectful suggestion, or leave us a 1-star rating. It doesn't matter. We get that this show isn't for everybody. But if we might prevail the favor, dear listener, please leave us a review. If you have 5 minutes, leave us a review. Let us know your thoughts. It really helps us to push us up the charts in iTunes. More platforms coming soon, so we'll keep you informed. Find us on YouTube. Look for Zero Gravity Media and our Zero G logo. Leave us some feedback using the contact form at our website. That's zero-gravity-media.com and zero-gravity-media.com/contact. More written content cometh, dear listener. Patiently, patiently. Today is Flag Day. Happy Flag Day, dear listener. Fly those stars and stripes high. Fly them proud. Today is also our God Emperor's, President Trump's 73rd birthday. Happy birthday from the HSP boys, Mr. President. Shorter intros in the house continue right here. So shorter intros means we only call out one city, and that city is the city with the most HSP listens in the previous week. So without any further ado, the city with the most HSP listens for this, our first show in our second year. Dear listener, in the spirit of Pride Month, we've got a 3-way tie here right now. This is unprecedented on the trail. The tying cities are San Francisco once again, Plano, Texas once again, and new to the top spot this week is Dallas, Texas, my hometown. Way to throw down, Dallas. Welcome to the top spot. Right up there in the mix, honorable mentions to Ashburn, Virginia, and College Station, Texas. We got a lot of listens. It was Brian? I thought it was College Station. My bad.
That was Brian.
All right, Brian, Texas.
In the house.
Brian in the house. All right. College Station has been here more prominently than Bryan, but both y'all towns, I mean, Luke and I call y'all home. Y'all know this. We're Aggies. You know what I mean? We was Aggies. So,
yeah.
So, yeah.
Well, I mean, for me, it is home.
Yeah, literally. Yes, it is. Yes, it is.
Yeah.
So, so that's what we got, man. We got a 3-way tie. And, it's dead on the number according to our metrics, dear listener. We've never seen anything like that. That's never happened.
Yeah, it's bizarre, actually.
It is very bizarre. Yes, it is. So, thank y'all so much for listening. We hope you're enjoying the content. We're certainly loving putting it down. All right, Luke, let's blaze this trail into year number 2. What we got on the trail map this week, man?
We got Spygate segment 1. Actually, and it's not just Spygate, it's many gates.
Yeah,
it's Hillary Gate, it's Biden Gate, it's Ukraine Gate, Spygate, all of the gates.
All the gates.
Yeah, we're going to open each one of them and take a look into each. See which corrupt politician is hiding behind those gates. Then we will move on to an audio break. Then we're going to hit Burn Cuck's latest. Russ, I don't even know what you have to say about California, but we're going to cover that afterwards.
I got questions to ask you about California, actually. So, yeah.
Sure. Let's do it. And then I like being surprised. I don't know what it is. I like the element of surprise.
All right.
It's challenging. It makes me think on my feet.
Yes, sir.
And then depending on where we're at, we might throw in the Hong Kong protests at the bottom of segment 2. If not, we'll put it in the top of segment 3, along with corrections, updates, and feedbacks. And then we'll move on to Grab Bag Special. And we got a really good Grab Bag Special for you. This is Ted Cruz was on the Sunday special with Ben Shapiro. I have to say, Russ, I kind of find Ben Shapiro is such a weird, kind of awkward interviewer sometimes. It really almost feels like he's doing it because he needs another platform to plug stuff for advertising revenue. So he just sort of uses his name to like get big names in there and then just kind of has a nothing interview the whole time. I don't know.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know. Some of the questions aren't very provocative, but I watched enough of this that it will be good. But so yeah, this will be good. It'll be a good Grab Bag Special. We got 2 really, really good audio breaks for you. We'll introduce those as we move into them, and let's jump into it, Russ.
All right. Without any further ado, Spygate, all these gates, Hillary Gate, Russia Gate. My goodness, dear listener, we're getting too many gates going on right now. I tell you what. It has been an eventful week in terms of Spygate. I'm going to take a conservative treehouse piece from the lead right here. It goes thus. It dropped yesterday. HPSCI ranking member Devin Nunes appears with Judiciary Committee member Mark Meadows to discuss today's HPSCI House, it doesn't matter, hearing corruption with DOJ and FBI, and the current NYT story about AG Bill Barr questioning the CIA construct of the 2017 Intelligence Community Assessment. Let's just get right into it. Let's hear the men themselves. Here we go, right from the top of the Sean Hannity interview. Oh, and you know, don't you know it? As soon as I click the button, Luke, it says video unavailable. Can you believe this?
Oh, my God.
All right, let me find it again here real fast. All right, I got it. All right, here it goes. Coming at you, dear listener, right here.
Been gotten away with. And Congressman Nunes, a special applause to you tonight for that speech, which I think probably, you're right up there with Lindsey Graham's speech on the day of the Kavanaugh hearings.
Well, thank you. Thank you, Sean. And what was amazing to me that I think a lot of people didn't pay attention to is there were 2 retired FBI agents on the stand there on the witness table, along with Andy McCarthy, who appears a lot on your show and others. What I was amazed at is the lack of concern by these former FBI agents, one of whom Peter Strzok used to work for. And look, they served their country, and I'm sure they did a great job. But when I brought up the fact that we probably shouldn't be using counterintelligence capabilities in this country to target a political campaign, they just sat there. It was almost like they had been coached by the Democrats to not say anything bad about the counterintelligence investigation that occurred. And I'll tell you, if that's the attitude, I know we always say, oh, this happened at the very top of the FBI. But I will tell you, if that attitude permeated throughout the counterintelligence capabilities, and if retired FBI agents think it's okay to use counterintelligence against political campaigns, I think we've gone a long way in this country, because it used to be the Democrats who didn't support the counterintelligence capabilities because they thought that they were spying on their campaigns and on political enemies.
Yeah, ain't that funny, though? Ain't that funny, Luke? My, how far we have come. It used to be Democrats that were opposed to the Patriot Act. That was a Republican bill. That was a George W. Bush bill that the Republicans ramrodded through. You know, it's a good point. You know? And then it turns out that, man, dear listener, we're going to detail some things here in these hallowed halls in this first segment. Man, this has been going on a lot longer than anybody knew. And that is really disappointing and really terrifying. But I'm going to skip to the end of the interview once again with Devin Nunes dropping the red pills. Check this out right here, Luke. You ain't going to believe this.
Well, look, if you're any of the former people at the FBI that were in those famous text messages that Mark did such a good job of getting to the bottom of, those people, I think, all have to be concerned. If you look at any of the dirty operations arms of the Clinton campaign, and there's a lot of people that were both at the DOJ involved in that, spouses of people at the DOJ that were involved, because ultimately that Steele dossier permeated down all the way through, ultimately to the special counsel. And I'll just close with this tonight. That is that I was finally able to see the scope memo.
Oh.
And remember, I had these concerns that it was based upon the Steele dossier. And look, I can't talk about what was in there, but
All right, since Sean Hannity's music is coming in, man, like Devin Nunes squeezes it in there right as they're going to break. I have had the opportunity to see the scope memos. Now let's red pill a little bit about what these scope memos are, dear listener. They are this. Rod Rosenstein drew out the initial scope of the special counsel investigation and gave that scope memo to Robert Mueller. Robert Mueller then goes back to him and he was like, listen, we're going to need a new scope memo, bro. And then they widened the scope of the investigation to include obstruction of justice. Now, Devin Nunes has said that he has just seen those documents. Panic in D.C. Believe this. Gateway pundit, once again, ranking member of the House Intelligence Committee, Devin Nunes told Sean Hannity Wednesday night that he has finally seen Rosenstein's scope memos, which authorized Mueller to go on a fishing expedition. Republican lawmakers in the House have fiercely fought to get their hands on the unredacted scope memo. Conservative watchdog group Judicial Watch also sued to have the memo released. And this is not the last time we're going to mention Judicial Watch in this first segment. Believe that.
Russ, can you provide we had a pretty hard opening. Can you provide like the context around Nunes and how all this came to be since last week?
Yeah, there was a hearing about Spygate with some intelligence officials to the Intelligence Committee in the House this week, right? That's what Devin Nunes is talking about. I believe that this happened on Wednesday. Devin Nunes absolutely excoriated them, right? And it was a really good speech. I didn't actually pull up the audio for it because I thought what he said on Sean Hannity was more relevant. So there have been hearings happening, particularly about Spygate, and that is to the fact that Devin Nunes testifies that he's simply really alarmed by the fact that these former FBI officials, including Peter Strzok's old boss, don't really seem to care, seem to be completely unfazed about the fact that the government was weaponized and used to spy on Donald Trump. Now, this also happens in the context of some stuff we're fixing to get to, man. Some serious business dropped by Judicial Watch about Spygate this week. And it goes like this, Luke. You know, let me just, okay, here's the context. I'll get to the proof here in a minute. It goes like this. Christopher Steele has been working as an intelligence operative for the State Department since at least 2014, probably since 2009. That's how long he's been working. Now, this begs the question, what in the hell is the State Department doing with an intelligence operation in the first place? That should be the CIA and the FBI. No, the State Department is running intelligence, and Christopher Steele was a part of that apparatus. It also seems to indicate that, Luke, what has been going on is that this isn't just about Donald Trump. This has been going on long before Trump descended the gilded escalator 4 years ago tomorrow. Descends the gilded escalator with his lovely wife, our First Lady. Blew mine and Luke's mind to the point that we had to go out and drink that night and celebrate and just be like, man, is this serious? We knew that day everything had changed in our modern political landscape. Nonetheless, staying on topic here, Luke, there was spying going on at least 1 year before Trump entered the election.
Yeah, I mean, the way Peter Strzok sends these text messages where it's like, oh, don't worry, we'll stop him. That definitely suggests that a precedent had been long set, or
yes, sir.
Had been set long before
That's
Trump
a
ever
great
announced.
point. That's a God tier point. I hadn't even thought of that, Luke. It certainly does. It seemed very, what's the word I'm looking for?
Just business as usual for them.
Yeah, routine. That's it. Yeah.
Yeah, routine.
Yeah. Man,
so
that's a great point.
But also, I think that we need to mention John Durham as well.
Oh, because yeah, John Bull Durham.
Yeah, because this plays into that as well. I didn't even know who this was until you mentioned it. But so John Durham, he's a United States attorney from Connecticut. Is that right?
Yes, sir. That's correct.
Yeah. He was appointed by Bill Barr to investigate this was back in May, to investigate the origins of the Russia investigation. So in other words, how did this come to be? What is this dossier? How was the FISA warrant acquired. And this week, it's been announced that he intends to interview 2 CIA officers in the review of the origins of the Russia investigation. And I think that's actually in that clip. I watched that clip. I think that's actually what Devin Nunes is referring to.
It is indeed, sir. That's correct. Yes.
When Sean Hannity's like, when is this going to go down? Like, when are we going to start to see movement on this? And movement being heads rolling in effect over the corruption and the weaponization of the Justice Department. And Devin Nunes was like, yeah, I mean, I saw the scope memo, and now John Durham is interviewing CIA officers over the origins of the Russia investigation. What is it? What's the latest with Christopher Steele? Isn't he set to talk to Congress or something like this?
He is going to be interviewed in the UK. Yes, that cometh next week, as a matter of fact, I believe. Yeah.
Yeah. And so Devin Nunes is saying that there are people who in the FBI, and if they were involved in this, then he was like, they're not sleeping well right now. I think those were more or less his exact words.
Yeah, you said it perfectly. Actually, you probably said it better than Devin Nunes himself. But yeah, that's exactly what he's saying. And I played kind of 2 unconnected audio clips, Luke. Thank you so much for kind of filling in the gap there. Everything you said is 100% correct. That's right. And we have also learned this week, oh my God, dear listener, Panic in D.C., what we have learned and what Devin Nunes also said in that clip is that, well, a couple of points I want to make here. The investigation of John Bull Durham is far-reaching and wide, is their only comment so far. That means that they're going after lots of people. They're interviewing the CIA. They have also said, I think it was William Barr who said, we're also investigating, foreign actors. We're investigating non-government organizations and individuals, and we're just going to really get to the bottom of how this started and how everything has gone this way so far. Okay, let's put the William Barr translator up here. What does that mean? They're going after Fusion GPS, Perkins Coie, Nellie Orr, Christopher Steele, all of them. They're investigating all of
Hillary.
them. Hillary, yeah, all of this. Yes. And we also now, there is something really fascinating. Oh, man, I wish I had this piece picked up right now, but I don't. It was on Conservative Treehouse this week, and Sundance details that what's fascinating about what we know as reported by the New York Times so far is that John Bull Durham isn't going and talking about process with these CIA operatives, which is why they're shaking in their boots, dear listener. No. He's going and looking at the final product, and he's saying, okay, how'd you make this conclusion? Oh, yeah? How'd you make this conclusion? He's not going through the whole, when did you start spying on Donald Trump? No, he's taking the investigation backwards. Quite unexpected, quite terrifying to the deep state. And I think, Luke, the correct way to approach this investigation, as William Barr always says, I'm not saying spying is bad. We just need to find out if it was properly predicated. They are beginning the investigation with the predicates. I find it fascinating, man.
Yeah, it reminds me of maybe there's a movie that I can't remember, I'm not thinking of, but it reminds me of one of these movies like a lawyer, type trial type movie, like not My Cousin Vinny, because that's a comedy, but more like a serious type drama movie, where there's a character in the movie whom you are supposed to believe is innocent throughout the entire movie. And then towards the end, some prosecuting attorney, and this person is saying, yeah, I witnessed the murder and blah, blah, blah. I was walking around the corner and that's when I saw the body and I saw the criminal running away. And then the prosecuting attorney sort of uncovers, well, why did you know to be there?
Right.
At that exact moment. Why were you turning the corner at that exact moment? And then lining up all these okay, it's an obscure location at an obscure time. What were you doing there? And then the sort of the plot unfolds, and it's revealed that person is actually the one who did it. They're the ones responsible when they were trying to play innocent the entire time. And I think that's what William Barr is doing right now. I don't even know if there's a movie that's like that, but surely there is.
Yeah, there are. And I mean, individual episodes of Perry Mason that were on, that television show from the 50s about the attorney, dear listener, where they're in court there at the end of the show. And then all of a sudden It occurs to Perry Mason. He drops the red pills right there. He figures it out right there in the trial. Drops the red pills. Red pills, dear listener, your dear listener, red pills the audience in front of their TVs. Oh, yeah, Luke, it's a perfect analogy. That's what I feel like going on right here, too. Just this moment of realization. Like, for example, this fact right here. All this time, we thought it was about Donald Trump. What it's looking like it is, in fact, is that it was never just about Donald Trump. It seems like it was probably initiated to weaponize the government against people who opposed the Iran deal, that Barack Obama's signature foreign policy legislation, John Kerry's signature foreign policy legislation, in which we gave $155 billion on cash pallets flown on four different.
Way more than that, dude.
It was. That's just the cash that we flew over there in 4 different airplanes that landed at 4 different airports. One of which landed before it ever even hit Iran. Very suspicious. Very suspicious. What we don't know is how much of that cash actually made it to Iran. But oh yeah, man. I mean, that's just the cash balance. That's just the cash. Oh, I'm sorry. Did I say million? I meant billion. 155.
I don't think that was dollar. I think that was actually pure gold. That was actual solid gold.
It certainly was. It was solid gold and a mix of different currencies. You're absolutely right. How much of our gold did we give to Iran when we did that? How much did we pay them off in order so that they could develop nuclear weapons and strike the United States?
Well, this in concert with Hillary selling how much of our uranium supply to Russia? Like
25%.
Or 25%? Yeah.
25%. Yep. Guaranteed. Forever. We've lost it. Russia gets 25% of our uranium to the tune of $144 million going to the Clinton Foundation and what seems to be a pay-for-play scam and nothing but that. Dang.
Dang. Dude, I hope William Barr, please get to the bottom of all of this.
Yes, sir.
God, I would just love for nothing more than that to happen.
I know, brother. You know something? I believe. I think it's coming, Luke. I think it cometh. I think the hammer droppeth. I think that's why we see all this. Yeah, that's why we see all of this hysteria from the left. All of this nonsense going on. Them going after Kellyanne Conway. Go ahead.
When would they have weaponized the government for Trump specifically? What year?
That would be in 2015. We have documentation of it in about April of 2016. I believe that went on much earlier.
Okay, now here's the deal. I read an article today that with respect to these kinds of crimes, there's a 5-year statute of limitations.
Dang. That's blackpilling as F. I didn't know that. Oh,
yeah. I read today that
ticking.
that again, I mean, if Trump, I mean, surely he knows that, right? But dude, knowing Trump and knowing how competitive he is and knowing everything that we do know about him, I can say with a high degree of certainty that he's not just sitting in his office and just sort of waiting for an email to come rolling in from Barr. You know, I think he is pressing this, pushing it. And perhaps he's doing this right before the presidential elections, right before the statute of limitations expires and all of this sort of stuff. Because time is ticking. So like, this is why I think that if we're going to see something, it's going to be now or never, because the statute of limitations is going to expire. The DOJ, FBI, and CIA will probably cool their heels on the corruption after this, which, you know, that in and of itself is a win, but not enough. That's not justice. Justice is heads rolling, and they need to put their foot on the gas.
You know, Luke, I had not connected the dots myself as eloquently as you just put them down and connected them for yourself. I couldn't agree more. And we've got this hysteria about what happened. And I covered it in Bots, Thoughts, and Drops number 10, which we're probably going to drop tonight. We'll drop HSP tomorrow, maybe Sunday at the latest, something like that. But I cover it in Bots, Thoughts, and Drops. I don't really want to relitigate it because you can just go listen to it there. But all of this hysteria that happened after the Stephanopoulos interview, Luke, where Luke was like, you know, yeah, I'd take information from Russia. Yeah, let's say that Norway comes at me and they say that they have information about an opponent of mine. Of course I'm going to take it. Oh my God! Trump is saying took information from Russia. Oh my God. And the left freaks out right on cue. Now, my premise in Bots, Thoughts, and Drops is that it was a troll. It was intentional, exactly like what you're saying. He said that to Stephanopoulos because he knows exactly who George Stephanopoulos is, and he knows exactly that he is a Clintonian, the former Clinton campaign manager, has a cushy job at ABC now, member of the deep state. Trump planted that information because he knew that the left was going to freak out like this, right? So I quite think you're correct, Luke. I mean, we've got the elections coming up, Yeah.
Well, Sean Hannity made a good point about this week. Sean Hannity asserted that that was on purpose, that Trump did that on purpose, setting so as to, and I don't know if Trump did this on purpose. I don't think he did. I think he just went with his gut, and I think he a lot of times goes with his gut on things, and then it just turns out it just works out well for him. But Hannity was asserting that Trump did this on purpose so that to get the left all riled up about accepting information, so that when Trump reveals, or William Barr, whomever reveals, that it's actually the opposite, that it was the left working, including in this sort of thing, then it just makes them look even worse than they did before.
Oh, yes.
And I don't, I mean, that's a little bit of a, I don't know, I think our theories that we come up with are a little better than that, but I mean, it's an okay theory,
Yeah. I actually played his audio from his show last night. I played it when I recorded Bots, Thoughts, and Drops last night. I played Hannity's comments. I didn't get his Fox and Friends piece when he appeared yesterday morning on Fox and Friends. I took it directly from his show because I think he was a little bit more succinct. I did read his comments from Fox and Friends yesterday morning. And the way that I put it up in Bots, Thoughts, and Drops is this way, Luke. Rush made the argument that this is an unforced error. What in the hell is Trump doing to George Stephanopoulos, talking to Stephanopoulos in the first place? Hannity comes out and says, yeah, this is a God-tier move. He just baited them unequivocally. I landed kind of somewhere in the middle on the spectrum between Rush and Hannity. I have to go with Hannity on this. At first, I was triggered like the way Rush was, and then I kept thinking about it, and I was like, man, look at the way these people are freaking out about all of this stuff with Trump taking this Russia information when we already know that Hillary took this information. We know that John McCain took this information. We know John Kerry took this information. We know Devin Nunes himself got trolled, and I played that audio last night, Luke, when he got trolled by the Russians calling him, and he's like, okay, well, we'll get the FBI in touch with you and all that kind of stuff. Everybody's on the take for information, but what really matters here is that Hillary Clinton and Bill Clinton were on the take for money from Russia. Nonetheless, go listen to Bots, Thoughts, and Drops, dear listener. And number 10, let me know your thoughts about it. So, Luke, I think that there's kind of a spectrum between Limbaugh and Hannity here. I go with Hannity on this, but I think the truth is actually somewhere in the middle. I think the point that you make best and most accurately, I think sometimes Trump is very well orchestrated and prepared. I think most of the time he shoots from his hip, because his business sense, his business acumen, his gut seems to be pretty impeccable, and that's how he operates, right? I don't think that he preps much. I mean, obviously he prepped for the D-Day speech. He doesn't prep for rallies, you know what I mean? They write a speech that he doesn't read, and he goes out and shoots from the hip, following his instincts. So I think you're right about this. But inviting Stephanopoulos in there was definitely, he was up to something. He wouldn't have just done that, Right. But I mean, also, I watched that interview, and it's not particularly controversial. I mean, any level-headed person any level-headed American who would watch that would actually appreciate his candidness. They wouldn't be like, oh my God. I mean, the way the media treats these things is so disconnected from how people actually think about it and react. They just are so out of touch with normal human beings. And I don't know, maybe Alex Jones is onto something, these people being like aliens from another dimension. And they're just so out of touch with what it's like to be a human being that they're losing their ability to imitate at this point, Maybe so, man.
Isn't that what he calls? He calls them like aliens from an alternate dimension or something like this.
Yeah, that's exactly what he says.
Lizard people.
Yeah, he does. And but like, yeah, I'm right there with you, man, because I saw that interview myself, and I was like, damn, owned, chewed up, and spat out by the president himself. Must feel bad, man. And then the media unanimously saying the exact same words, take the exact opposite tack of what I saw before my own very eyes. It's a good comparison you make, man, with these aliens.
Brian Stelter's going to be wandering on ground going, sugar, water.
Indeed, sir. Let's just ship him off to District 9. I swear to God, man. Let's just put him in District 9.
This is how you must treat the prawns if they are to obey you.
Oh, yes. Oh, yes.
Oh, man.
Oh, man.
That sugar water reference, dear listeners, from Men in Black. If
Yes.
you've never seen.
Yes.
When I was in the Corps, we had a fish that looked exactly like that guy, and we always used to make him walk around doing that.
Dang. Nice, man. Nice. Yeah. Hours of entertainment, dear listener. You put freshmen on details and you just take all their time and you just have them do this and that and that. It's hours of fun. It is hazing and very strictly hazing considering these modern times, but looking at it through the business. Yeah.
I wouldn't have lasted 3 months.
I know, man. I know it. So
before getting kicked out. But what else we got on the gates?
Man, I could read the Tom Fitton article, but I think we've already litigated it so well. We said exactly what he said. What else we got here? Let me read this real quick. The FBI has released 277 pages of redacted records that show the FBI failed to produce information from an August 2015 meeting with Intelligence Community Inspector General about Hillary Clinton's email server. The FBI claimed that notes are, quote, missing, and the CD containing those notes from the meeting is likely, quote, damaged irreparably. Included in the documents are February 2019 FBI electronic communications documenting the damaged CD and the missing notes from the August 3rd, 2015 meeting before the FBI special agents and the ICIG about Clinton's server. Now, this is a Breitbart piece. It dropped on the 11th, 3 days ago on Tuesday. What the context is here is that, okay, now not only have Hillary Clinton's 33,000 emails disappeared, now all the documentation about the investigation into that email scandal has disappeared. Can you believe it, Luke? Isn't that something? Isn't that just precious?
They disappeared.
Just disappeared. Yeah.
I don't know. They just disappeared.
They just disappeared. Oh, my God. Look, the CD's just cracked and damaged, and we have no idea how this happened. Oh, my God. Yeah. Man. Oh my gosh.
Yeah, dude. It's like, I always like to think about this in the context of my own job. If I were to like try to say something like this to my boss, I just like totally flubbed this project. What happened to that project you were working on? It disappeared. I don't know. Came into work, just gone.
Yeah.
I have no idea.
Yeah.
Maybe somebody snuck into my office in the middle of the night and just took it.
Yeah. Yeah, man. I got watergated, bro. Sorry. I got watergated. My bad.
We should start an investigation immediately.
Yeah. Oh my goodness. Oh, this is too much fun.
Well, I mean, if you were like a modern neo-leftist, you would go to HR and accuse your boss of stealing it from you.
Exactly.
Turn it right around on him,
Yeah, right. Exactly.
My boss is trying to sabotage me because you'd go to HR, you'd tell them you're gay, and then you would tell them that your boss is sabotaging you because he's homophobic.
That's it. Yeah. And I'm transitioning and I identify as a woman, and my boss is harassing me. That's exactly it, man. That's the play right there. That's it.
Yeah.
So, yeah. I just got one more little. Go ahead.
That would be like a good cartoon series. If I was like a cartoon artist, I would do a cartoon series of like politics as applied to everyday workplace scenarios.
I like it, man. Man, Jessica can draw. Get her to do that. That would be fantastic, man. She would make $1 million. Believe this, she would.
Yeah. All right, well, what you got, and then we can roll out of here pretty
man,
quick.
I got one last little bit. This is about the leftist cognitive dissonance, right? Like, listen, dear listener, it's amazing to me. Like, Luke and I are talking about these aliens in the media and how they don't see reality. They're so blinded.
Well, they're not from this reality.
Exactly, man.
They're from some other platonic universe. That's perfect.
Yes, the relative universe. Yeah, the universe where objective facts and science do not exist, even though they are the party of science, and they have claimed it for their own because they love science, Luke. You know what I mean?
Oh, they love. I'm a science. I'm a data.
I
got the data. I got the data.
Exactly. Yeah. So, like, man, I read this piece in GQ yesterday, Gentleman's Quarterly, and I was absolutely astounded. It's written by a guy named Jay Willis, who is an aspiring attorney, as he says, dyed-in-the-wool leftist. And the title of the piece is Spygate, How Right-Wing Media Creates a Conspiracy Theory Out of Thin Air. I'm going to take it from the lead. It goes thus. The plot goes like this. During the summer of 2016, on the clandestine orders of then-President Barack Obama, the FBI and CIA hatched an ambitious plan to topple the Trump campaign from the inside. In a scandal of unprecedented scope, Democratic politicians commandeered American counterintelligence resources to spy on their primary political opponent and boost Hillary Clinton's chances of winning the election. The Russia investigation that has dominated headlines for nearly 2 years is, in fact, a desperate smokescreen conjured up by terrified deep state actors to conceal evidence of their own wrongdoing and to frame the president for heinous crimes he didn't commit. On May 8th, the Washington Post reported on the White House's decision to back the Justice Department's withholding of information from House Intelligence Committee Chairman Devin Nunes on the grounds that a disclosure would expose the identity of a U.S. citizen who has provided information to the FBI and CIA. The authors added, though, that the individual had been a source of information used by the special counsel's office and that it was unclear whether Trump knew this key fact when his administration chose to side with law enforcement. It didn't take long for him to find out. Almost immediately, the right-wing media ecosystem began laundering and repackaging this news item, weaving its constituent elements together with Trumpian talking points until a full-blown conspiracy theory worthy of the president's tweets emerged on the other side. This metamorphosis is what would happen if a word cloud sourced from a Trump rally were used in a giant game of telephone, but one in which the gibberish end result were then broadcast as news to hundreds of millions of recipients. How did this happen? And he goes on in this piece to call out Kimberly Strassel, Tucker Carlson, Sean Hannity, Trump himself, Kellyanne Conway, Devin Nunes, in terms of an information laundering system in order to create conspiracy theories. Yo, bro, guess what? I'm going to tell you something right here. You listen to HSP right here. We done proved this ain't conspiracy theory. This is conspiracy fact, bro. And there is no way you can deny your way out of this. There's no way, because the truth is on our side. But like, your cognitive dissonance, your blindness to the facts is frankly alarming and amazing.
You know what I find funny?
Jesse Lee Peterson. Amazing.
Here's what I find funny about that. The fact that one would refer to themselves as an aspiring lawyer. I mean, you are a lawyer or you're not. You're like, nobody who graduated law school is like, I'm an aspiring lawyer.
Yeah.
No, they're like, I'm a lawyer now.
Yeah.
So, I mean, is this guy like a law student?
I don't know. I tried to find as much information as I could about him. He's got about 5,700 followers on Twitter. Every time he tweets, he gets about 2 likes. And like, his Twitter is full of these obsequious praises about, oh my God, Jay Willis, he's in such good shape. I mean, I thought I was in shape until I saw Jay Willis retweet, oh my God, look how handsome Jay Willis is. Like, I'm not kidding, Luke. Like, it's all these leftists talking about how yoked he is. He ain't that. Yeah, he's not
ironic
that yoked. Yeah, it is.
Bot farm.
Yep. Yes, sir. 5,700 followers belies 2 likes per tweet. Just saying. That's all I'm saying.
Oh God,
So-
yeah, those are fake. Yeah, that's just. I mean, as soon as you said that in his bio, it said he was an aspiring lawyer. I just knew immediately. I was like, okay, this is garbage. This guy's garbage,
exactly.
dishonest, complete moron. And then as soon as he like started reading, what was the first sentence that he wrote? It was like,
The plot goes like this.
Yeah,
during
exactly.
the summer of 2016.
like, as soon as you said the plot goes like this, I was like, if that's how you start out a piece, then you are
Garbage.
so amateur, such an amateur writer. The plot goes like this. Let me help you out, folks. You know,
yeah.
you're too dumb to understand. So let me line this out for you. And then what he says is, it's not even creative. It's not creative. It's not groundbreaking. It's not intellectual. And he writes all these things where it's like, a word cloud of telephone.
Right.
Like, what, dude, are you a freshman in high school? That's literally what I would expect a freshman in high school, or like maybe a really smart 7th grader or 8th grader, like a honors level English 7th grader to be writing stuff like that. Adults do not write like an educated adult has a better grasp of just general writing skills, especially somebody writing for GQ. I used to be subscribed to GQ, but they turned out to be a leftist rag, basically. So I did away with my subscription.
Yeah, it's so sad, man, how they fell. Man, what was that kind of softcore porn girly mag that used to be really hot in the late 90s and early 2000s?
Like Cosmo?
Dang. No, not Cosmo. It's for men. It's for men. Dang.
Maxim.
Maxim. Yeah. I used to love Maxim. I had a subscription to it, and then it also turned out to be a leftist rag. Ain't that funny?
Well, dude, this happens over and over and over again. You know, you get some space for men, right? We can't have that. We can't have a space for men. It happened with The Man Show. When Joe Rogan and Doug Stanhope took it over, they put a female in charge, like she was the chief writer for the show. And I've heard Joe Rogan talk about this. He's like, as soon as they did that, he's like, I knew this show was over. It's like, you can't have a woman trying to write comedy for men. It just specifically for men. It doesn't mean women can't be funny and men think that's funny, but you cannot have a woman writing comedy that caters specifically and only to a straight male audience. So that show went down. Maxim went down. There's a lot of other like Unilad on Facebook. They used to be really funny and really edgy. Like they catered to the lad culture. And then there was the Lad Bible, which was basically a competing entity. Well, they both got bought out by rags and then just totally gutted. And now they're just nothing companies. This happens over and over and over again. They do not want, This is exactly what the culture wars are. They do not want straight white male spaces. If that is, and it doesn't necessarily even have to be white, but ideally it's mostly white. But just at least straight male. They do not want straight male spaces. You know, if you are hiring somebody and you're going to share an office with that person, and you think you would have a better chance at success if it was a male, well, then that's subconscious bias and you're sexist, and we need to implement policies to prevent you from doing that. So in the name of preventing that, they start discriminating against men as a policy. This is like what companies do. And you may say, well, they're going to discriminate against women otherwise. Well, what do you do if not discriminate all day? Do you just go around indiscriminately asking people if you want to go have lunch? No, you discriminate, and you ask your friends. How do you come upon friends? You discriminate, and you say, no, I want to be friends with you. No, I don't want to be friends with you. And I mean, the most discriminatory thing that you can possibly do is choose somebody to marry. You know, like that is so incredibly discriminatory, because you've effectively said, I am discriminating against everybody on earth in favor of this one person. I mean, we as human beings, discrimination is a positive virtue as being a human being. If you're totally indiscriminate, you're a moron and you're going to be damaged from it, you know? So
yeah.
Discrimination is not in and of itself bad. It can be bad, but only if it's irrational discrimination. That's it.
Right.
Yeah. And so, yeah, all these, I kind of went off on a tangent there, but all these publications, Unilad, Lad Bible, Maxim, The Man Show, you see it over at GQ over and over and over and over and over again. Oh, no, we can't cater to men. Oh, no, we can't cater to straight people. We can't cater to white people. We can't do that. Yeah, so totally unsurprising there. And anytime one of these pops up, because there is a market there, so somebody in some capacity will come try to fill that vacuum, and that doesn't last more than some short period of time before they get snuffed out. And then you have to wait, for someone else to come along and fill the vacuum again. It happens over and over again.
Yes, sir.
I mean, there used to be places where, men of all different economic classes would go gather after work. These like male only clubs, basically, where you'd go have a cigar.
Gentlemen's clubs.
Yeah, gentlemen's club. You go have a cigar and a whiskey, and plumbers would interact with lawyers and business people, and sort of like the Masonic Lodge, but much more casual, just a sort of after work activity. I mean, all those places, Elks clubs, that's what they used to be called. I mean, all those places are gone. That's a thing of the past now. So it's just this is culture war, constant elimination of male spaces.
That's right, man.
Well, now that I've gone on my obligatory tangent for, I think each segment,
good, man.
I go off on some tangent.
That's all good. It's all good, man. Yeah, it was fantastic. Good tangent, man. So,
all right, dude. Well, you want to close it out, and we'll go to audio break.
Yeah, I think we have closed it out. I mean, there may be a couple of details that we have missed here and there about Spygate, but dear listener, we're on top of them. Believe this. We've been having a little bit of trouble with our show prep before the show, but I think we pretty much laid it out. And we're going to go to audio break now. And man, dear listener, the Epoch Times. Everybody says Epic Times. I don't know why. It's Epoch.
I thought
that's
it was
how you
Epoch.
say Epoch or Epoch. Either one. Yes, it's not Epic. Right?
Yeah, that's...
like Dan Bongino says it epic. Rush says it epic. It's not epic. It's epoch or apoc. That's it. Listen,
I bet they also say champing at the bit.
They certainly do, as a matter of fact, sir. They certainly do. Well, we got a real treat for you here for the first audio break from American Thought Leaders, this God-tier podcast that Luke and I have recently discovered. And since we discovered it, we've played a little bit from it each and every single week. We've got 1 year of hashtag walk away. It dropped this past Sunday, June the 7th. And it is an interview with Brandon Straka and friends. It's on American Thought Leaders. Luke and I have been doing about 7.5 to 10 minutes. Does that feel good for you for a break this time, Luke?
Yeah, dude, good? I'm always good for like 7 minutes. If it's 7 minutes,
right, perfect.
Yeah.
All right, perfect. All right, so I'm hovering right now. I'm at about a minute and a half, and Brandon Straka is talking right now. We're just going to take it from right here. We'll play you about 7.5 minutes. Go ahead, man.
And this is a throwback to, God, man, what episode did we first break?
I don't know. It was single digits.
Yeah, it was like one of the first episodes. So we're doing a throwback here.
Ain't we, though?
Yeah.
Yeah, man. Yeah. Throwback Thursday, indeed. That's what's happening right now, TBT. So
that's right.
Well, except it's not Thursday. It's Friday, Flag Day, June 14th, and the president's birthday. But you get the point. I'm just trying to have some fun. So anyways, yeah, this is a throwback in a major way. Luke and I talked about Walk Away before Walk Away was cool, man. Did we not, Luke?
No, dude, we broke it straight away.
Yeah, I remember
we
pretty much broke it, yeah.
Yeah, trying to like gather. I like seeing his posts on social media about like, it was like he still had a job, I think. And he was like, I have a interview with Fox News, and it was just really funny because he was just really trying to. He got a lot of exposure very quickly, and for the Walk Away campaign, which he very, very quickly he created a video and started this campaign called Walk Away Campaign. He's a gay guy. He's a former hairdresser. I assume he quit his job by now. And,
yeah, he got run out. He had to. He got run out of Manhattan almost entirely.
Oh, so, wow.
Yeah.
And so he started this Walk Away campaign. He recorded this video, this sort of like very passionate video with some dramatic music in the background, and talking about how he was walking away from the left because he was a leftist, and just trying to start a massive campaign of the gay community as well as other liberals just walking away from the left over the realization that the left does nothing for you. They damage you, if anything. They're using you as pawns and as political cannon fodder. That's all you are. You're just a currency to them. You're just a currency. And they will trade you off in a minute if they think they can make a currency trade in their own benefit. And so he posted this video to getting people to walk away, and Russ and I covered it, and it just blew up. And now he's on Fox News. You know, this is now a year later, and So, anyways, enjoy.
Yes, indeed. All right, dear listener, thank you so much for riding the trail with us here for the end of segment 1. We're going to be gone for just about 7.5 minutes of real time. We'll be back at you before you know it. Enjoy Brandon Strack.
Liberal media was really manipulating, I think, all people, but particularly minorities. And what bothered me so much about that is the realization that they were really using fear, I think, and identity politics to divide people, to scare people, and to manipulate the way that we think and the way that we vote and the way that we behave. And so I knew that I needed to walk away, but I also knew that there were probably a lot of other people who were feeling the way I was feeling. So I decided to start a movement, a campaign on social media, encouraging people to make video testimonials. That's how it started, with me doing a 6-minute video saying why I was walking away, and encouraging other people to speak up and do exactly the same thing. And it took.
So Chris and Daniel were folks that did videos that were inspired by you. I'm wondering if you could just introduce them.
Sure. This is Daniel Morchi, a good friend of mine. Christopher Wright, who's also a good friend of mine. And actually gentlemen that I both met because of the campaign, because of the movement Walkaway.
Fantastic. So Daniel, tell me a little bit about what made you decide to make your video.
So, well, actually, I never officially made a walk-away video, but Brandon knows that we're doing an educational series, and I did do a video on anti-Semitism, but that is independent of the walk-away campaign that he started. But my walk-away experience, I certainly had one. When living in New York, you know, as gay and Jewish, it's sort of a given that you are a liberal and you are voting with the Democratic Party. And so during the last election, of course I was going to be supporting Hillary. That was just the thing to do. I mean, the way the media covered Trump, I mean, and the Democrats spoke of him, he was just like the worst possible thing that could ever happen to this country. He was racist, bigot, homophobe, fascist. And I mean, some people were even calling him Hitler. I mean, that's sort of actually extremely offensive when you consider how it diminishes the Holocaust. But, you know, I was fearful of ever having Trump as president. So naturally I voted for Hillary Clinton. And I guess throughout 2017, I began to realize just how manipulative and how much the media lies. All the things that they were saying about him, from his Charlottesville statements to his comments on immigrants being animals, and apparently making fun of a disabled reporter. All those things I slowly began to realize were false. They were either complete lies or lies by omission, taking things out of context. I sort of began waking up to the media, and as well as the Democrat Party. I saw, as they became increasingly radical, they embracing socialist policies. They're using identity politics to divide this nation, to race bait. Their complete negligence on the border crisis. I mean, and 1,200 people a day is certainly a crisis. I just saw them using certain people for votes, just targeting minorities, gays, blacks, and then in the end, not really actually doing anything for them. It just came down to votes. It's just a game to them. So I don't know. I woke up, and I think by 2018, I was completely red-pilled. And then when Brandon released his video,
red-pilled. So what does that mean for some of our audience's members might not know. Some of them definitely do.
Yes.
But we do.
What do you mean by red
dear
pill?
listener, know what the red pill is.
I guess it's actually a reference to the Matrix. If you take the blue pill, you sort of close your eyes and to what's going on in the world, and just kind of turn a blind eye to it all. And it's what you don't know doesn't hurt you, sort of thing. And red pill is sort of waking up and really seeing how things work, what is really going on. It's just sort of a light bulb moment. So red pilled. I like to say I was red pilled in large part to Brandon too. So when
you saw his video,
yes,
his original video?
When he released his video exactly a year ago now, oddly enough, I actually saw it from my dad's cousin who lives in London. So it made its way all the way to London, and shortly after it was released. So that was the first time I saw it, and I thought, wow, this is me. I mean, this is everything I've been sort of going through 2017. And even though I was already conscious of my views at that by 2018, seeing his video sort of just reaffirmed my beliefs and my support for Donald Trump. I was like, I guess I think that was really the first time I really said, like, hey, I am a Trump supporter, and it made it a lot easier seeing that video made it a lot easier to sort of be more open about my views and just my support. So that's basically my story.
That's fascinating. Something that just struck me about what you've shared and what a number of other people have shared with me is that there's this, if you have these, let's say, more conservative views, especially in a city like New York, you can feel very, very much alone.
Absolutely.
And you kind of keep them under wraps because, we were talking with Chris. Chris, maybe you can kind of give us a sense of how you stepped in to walk away as well. We were talking a little bit beforehand about this. We can expand a little more.
Yeah, definitely. It kind of goes back. I've always been interested in politics, even as a child. Kind of weird enough, right? In 2008, I was an Obama supporter. I was a leftist, a Democrat, most of my life. So I campaigned for Obama in 2008, went door to door for him, got him a lot of votes, all that good stuff. And what I noticed is after I campaigned for him, and 4 years of Obama, I noticed he wasn't really sticking to his campaign word policies, what he was saying when he was rallying. So I was already kind of looking at the other side in 2012, and I was looking at Herman Cain, and it was Ron Paul were the two candidates I was looking at. But what happened with both candidates was the media, in different ways, attacked both candidates to kind of mess up their chances for becoming elected, even in the primaries. So after that occurred, I kind of said, okay, media kind of looks like they determine who the presidents are in this country, not really the people. So it was interesting to me. So 2016 came around. I was at the 8 years of Obama, I was really looking at the other side, like, okay, who's out there, man? Because we got to have other options. And who caught my attention initially was Dr. Ben Carson. I knew about Dr. Ben Carson for years. My dad's a Seventh-day Adventist pastor to this day. And he met Dr. Ben Carson 3 times. He gave me the book Gifted Hands when I was a child. And he gave me that book saying, hey, young black man in America, a young boy at the time in America, he said, you can be a lot of things in this country. You don't have to be a athlete or a rapper or an actor. You can be successful and, there's different avenues. And he showed me Dr. Ben Carson. I read his book, Gifted Hands. The first biography I read in my life, first book other than a comic book I read in my life, to be honest with you. And it kind of changed my life from that point. I had a lot of respect for the man. So when he ran in 2016, I was Dr. Ben Carson, don't hear nothing. I know who this man is. I'm supporting him. And he was fighting for Christianity at the time, which was getting attacked a lot in this country. So I was really on board with what he had to do. So when he was doing good, he was the #1 candidate in the primary at one time, even over Trump. And when that occurred, they attacked him and said, oh, Dr. Ben Carson said that he was accepted to West Point, but there's no documents of him going to West Point or getting accepted to West Point. And he was saying, no, I didn't say I got accepted by West Point. I said I spoke with administration, and they offered me a chance to go there, and I turned it down because I didn't want to go to a medical school. So when I graduated, I'd go right to my field. So the media again lied, and they messed up his chances to become president. So that was the third guy I was looking at. I was like, man, you guys messed with 3 candidates I was looking at to become president. Who am I going to vote for? So, of course, Donald J. Trump, I'm sorry. So when I saw him do a report do an interview with a reporter, and he like just dismantled this reporter, like just, you know, how Trump does with the media. So after he did that, I was like, well, Trump, you know, what are your policies? You know, I kind of like how you handled the media because I was getting sick of the media at that time. And so when I looked at his policy, I was watching his rallies, so I was going to YouTube watching his older videos, even from the 80s. And he pretty much always had the same message, like, you know, about border control, about the economy, about jobs. Trump has been saying the same thing for the past 30 years. So I was like, wow. And I remember in his first interview with Oprah, they asked him, well, if he had a chance to run, you know, would you run for president? He said, no, the paycheck's not good enough, for one. But he said the country already got bad enough, I'll run. And then when I saw him running now, I was like, wow, I guess he's sticking to his word again.
All right, dear listener, welcome back to HSP episode number 42, our first episode in year number 2. That was a great little segment, Russ.
All right, I'm glad you enjoyed it. I did as well. It's fascinating, fantastic content, man. Epoch Times, American thought leaders doing the work. Thank y'all so much.
Indeed, man. Well, let's move on, dude. We got Burn Cuck.
Oh, God. Yeah, so we do indeed. Let me pull up my show prep here about Uncle Bernie. There's been a lot of stuff going on this week with Uncle Bernie. We're going to tell you all about it right now. It neatly ties into California, into socialism. And so I'm just going to play, let's start off this clip right here, just playing. Bernie Sanders had a rally this week, and it was called the 21st Century Bill of Rights. We're going to have a revolution. Everybody's going to pay their taxes. And let's listen to what Uncle Bernie has to say right now.
Over 80 years ago, Franklin Delano Roosevelt helped create a government that made transformative progress in protecting the needs of working families. Today, in the second decade of the 21st century, we must take up the unfinished business of the New Deal and carry it to completion.
He's not wrong. That's what it was.
This is the unfinished business of the Democratic Party and the vision we together must accomplish. In order to accomplish that goal, it means committing ourselves to protecting political rights, to protecting civil rights, and to protect economic rights for all of the people in our country. As FDR stated in his 1944 State of the Union address, and I quote, "We have come to a clear realization of the fact that true individual freedom cannot exist without economic security and independence," end quote.
Wow, he's got 100 people there, man. Impressive.
Wow.
Yeah.
Today, our Bill of Rights guarantees the American people a number of important constitutionally protected political rights. And while we understand that these rights have not always been respected, and we have so much work to do in order to protect those rights, we are proud that our Constitution guarantees freedom of religion, freedom of expression, freedom of assembly, a free press, and other rights, because we understand that we can never have true American freedom unless we are free from authoritarian tyranny.
Oh, indeed, sir. Man, I'm getting bored with this. Let's just cut this off. He didn't really get into what it is that I thought that he spelled it out right after he invoked FDR, but here's what he's guaranteeing, Luke. Free education, guaranteed retirement, every American will have the right to have a job. You have a right to these things. He neglects the point about a right is an obligation guaranteed by somebody. He doesn't go into detail about what those rights are guaranteed by. He assumes stupidly that the government could possibly guarantee all of this.
So and
I'll tell you something else. Go ahead.
No, I was going to ask, do you have a list of the 21st Century Bill of Rights?
Yeah, as a matter of fact, I do. Let's see here. Let me find it. Oh, dang it. You know what, Luke? This is one of those articles that I have pulled up that wouldn't load. Free healthcare, free education, debt forgiveness, guaranteed retirement, guaranteed income, guaranteed right to have a job, and those are about the 5 planks that he's pulling. It's straight up socialism. Straight up, it's not even socialism, Luke. It is communism. That's what it is. I mean, let me red pill you about this, okay? After he gave that rally, Sean Hannity had Levin on his show last night, and Levin read from Stalin's Constitution for the original USSR. And he was like, first we have this plagiarist, Joe Biden. Well, now we have a second plagiarist in our midst, and that is none other than Bernie Sanders, and he plagiarized Stalin directly. And Levin quoted Articles 18 through 21 from the Constitution, and it certainly was directly plagiarized by Bernie Sanders at this rally. And I've got the audio here. We could play it, but in the interest of time, I think we should just roll on. You can believe us on this, dear listener. This literally happened. That happened last night on Sean Hannity. God tier segment by Mark Levin, I will say. But he literally, Luke, is plagiarizing communism for his campaign right now.
Yeah. I mean, people don't realize that all this stuff, feminism, environmentalism, social, all this stuff is a play for power. Environmentalism and feminism, these are more culture wars. They end up manifesting politically, but that's almost more secondary. They're really more of a culture war. Those two, feminism and environmentalism, those two, and I guess feminism could also, I mean, I used to think it was just those two. Now that I'm thinking about it right now, I think it's a lot more. I mean, I think it's the whole idea of racism. I think it's the whole idea of feminism. I think it's the whole idea of LGBTQ-ism. I think it's all of this. That's all the culture war. And
yes, sir.
The reason that is so powerful is because it transcends politics and injects itself straight into the culture. Just
yes, sir.
Bypasses politics entirely. Political correctness, like the concept of political correctness, is a cultural subversion of the First Amendment. They know they can't do it legislatively, so they do it culturally. That's what political correctness is. It is a cultural subversion of the First Amendment. And all of this stuff ties into that. It's all a big power grab. And the communists were no different. The communists were huge environmentalists. They were feminists. They were all of these things. Political correctness doesn't even begin to describe, doesn't even, like what we understand as political correctness, doesn't even begin to describe what the communists viewed as political correctness, the propaganda, all this stuff. It's not much different. We're going to, actually, you don't know this yet, Russ, but I'm going to hit this briefly later in this China segment, how it's all the same. So,
yes, sir.
When you talk about the culture wars, this is what you're talking about. It's just all of this stuff just straight away. And so, yeah, it's no surprise that he's pulling it from the communists. That's just
right.
Par for the course. I mean, the communists wrote the playbook on it. It's like basically what the Democratic Socialists, their biggest conundrum, their biggest tactical or strategic, the biggest problem they face is how to do it without mounting piles of corpses. That's the most difficult problem they face.
That's a great way to put it, Luke. That is so smart. That is so smart. Yes, sir. True.
Yeah. So this is why they're like, oh, we came up with a new way to do it. This one hasn't been tried. This is a new form of social. Oh, this is democratic social. So all they are is like trying to figure out like, okay, well, and this is the reason like why everyone hates Nazis, but they don't hate communism, right? Like why in school it's like, oh my God, in movies and media and all this, the evil Nazis. But you don't really hear that much about how evil Stalin was and how 60 million people died under Mao. I mean, these people were so much worse than Hitler ever was. It's not even comparable, but yet we hear everything about Hitler and about the Nazis. The reason is because most people sort of generally agree with communism and socialism. People on the right who identify communism as this like, oh my God, look at this bloodbath and all these people dying of starvation. But what if you propose to them, okay, but what if it worked? Would you still be against it? And I think most people on the right don't really have an answer to that because they don't have a principled understanding of what freedom is and liberty and the implications that has on happiness and one's ability to accrue wealth and live happy, prosper, and flourish.
And how it is inextricably tied with capitalism. They are completely tied, one and the same. Capitalism is freedom. Freedom is capitalism. You're right. They don't get it.
Yeah. And I mean, it's not that. It's even more than that. It's even more that they're. It's even more than the fact that they're inextricably tied. Capitalism is just a result of understanding the facts of reality. Like, in order to define what kind of a political system you want, you have to derive that from the facts of reality. And the facts of reality are that we as a biological entity have to be able to think our way into life. And to live life as a human is to be happy. That's what, so survival is happiness. And to be happy, you have to think to act. That's it. So you need a political system. Those are the facts of reality. And you need a political system that enshrines that into law. That is capitalism. So capitalism rests upon the facts of reality. These other systems like socialism and communism, they're not destructive out of calamity. They're destructive out of necessity. They have to be destructive because they exist. They exist in spite of reality. So they necessarily have to be destructive. And but I think a lot of people on the right, they don't really understand that. They don't really have a principled approach. So when they think about communism, they don't think about like that there's this big kumbaya goal that we're all going to sit around, and we talked about it on the last show. We're going to sit around and hold hands and celebrate the fact that we have achieved equality and all these sorts of things. And they just sort of are like, oh, but you've tried it and it's failed. Well, what is your answer when they say they've come up with a new formula, and this time, millions of people aren't going to die. We finally figured it out. They could look to Cuba, for example. I was actually doing a bunch of reading on Che Guevara this week, and his daughter is a big political activist. And she's like, I was watching this interview by her today, or no, it was yesterday, and they were like, well, why don't you have a democratic process? What is your answer to people when they're like, well, you're not a democratic country? And her answer was, well, our people are educated, and they are. Cuba has a 99.7 or 9% literacy rate, but they're all poor relative to the United States. Why? Because they're not free. But to her, that doesn't matter if you're free or not. It matters if you're educated or not. And so you have to be principled in terms of understanding like what are we really going after and why are we going after it? We aren't going after education. We aren't going after healthcare. We aren't going after equality. We're going after freedom. That's what we are going after. All those other things come later. All those other education, all that stuff, that all comes later. We are going after freedom and liberty. Why? Because we derive from the facts of reality that is what we as a species need to flourish, is to be free. That is our nature. And I think a lot of people on the right, they just don't have an answer when they come up on a guy like Bernie, who is spot on with his strategy. I took some notes while he was talking, Russ, and Bernie is spot on with this strategy of we need to finish what FDR started. He could not be more spot on with, like, if I were going to be a socialist, I would be doing exactly what he's doing.
Yep. I said it last night in Bots, Thoughts, and Drops number 10. He really, of all of the Democratic candidates right now, he scares me the most because he is principled. His principles are all wrong and his shit is stupid. But nonetheless, he is principled. And for somebody like Donald Trump to mount an argument against him, I believe is going to be very difficult for Donald Trump.
Agreed.
He's going to have to really sharpen those intellectual points. He's going to have to get really principled really quick. He's not going to be able to out-quip Bernie Sanders because Bernie Sanders won't quip with him. Bernie Sanders goes straight back to the bedrock of communism each and every time.
Yeah.
This is a difficult race for Donald Trump.
Well, this is
if it happens.
The reason, and what you're getting at is the reason he won't go into a battle of quips is because he's not going against Donald Trump. This is fundamentally different. This is the
Right.
fundamental
That's
difference,
it.
is that somebody like Bernie or an AOC or any of the Justice League Democrats or Cenk from TYT or any of these people, they are not going, unlike the neo-left and unlike the conservatives, unlike all of those people, they are not going against anybody. Get that out of your head. They're not going against anybody. They are going for something. So Donald Trump is just sort of like noise over here off to the side. Oh God, this noise over here. Okay, no, people, pay attention to this over here. That's what we're after. Don't pay attention to that guy. Yeah, quips, insults, yeah, whatever. We don't care about that. We're after this positive. This is the positive that we are after. Again, not saying that socialism is positive, but I'm saying you're asserting something that is just not simply an absence. And so being against Donald Trump that's why the neo-left is struggling the way that they are, because all they are is being not Donald Trump. That's it. That's their whole position, is that, well, we aren't him. So that's why you're seeing all the corruption and everything, because they're just trying to make Donald Trump appear to be something that they can just simply be an alternative to. The socialists don't care. You don't hear AOC or Bernie talking about Russia or any of this stuff. They're going on about their principles, about socialism, about how this is what we are after. And
that is true, but I might interject. They do conveniently step off the platform, and it just occurred to me as you were talking about this very well, Luke, that they do have an Achilles heel, and that Achilles heel is this. They are just self-righteous enough that every now and then, remember that speech on CNN from Bernie, on Fox News, on his town hall on Fox News about a month ago. I believe this man is a racist. I believe he is a sexist. I believe he is a homophobe. AOC's been saying the same type of crap about Donald Trump this week, so they are just not quite dyed in the wool and pure enough.
Yeah,
right?
yeah. I mean,
that he could. Yeah,
I totally agree. But that isn't the essence of their politics, is my point.
True.
Yeah, I mean, yeah,
True.
they'll do that when it serves them. You know, when the opportunity is there, yeah, they'll drop Russia. But that isn't the essence of their politics. That is the essence of Chuck Schumer and Nancy Pelosi's politics. That's not the essence of the Dem Sox. The Dem Sox are asserting something, to their credit. You know, I wish the right would do the same. I wish the right would say, okay, well, you want to pick up where FDR left off. I want to pick up where the founding fathers left off. I want to enshrine capitalism, not necessarily into law, because we need to be a country of ideas, but I am going to pick up where the founding fathers left off, and I'm going to work to remove contradictions out of the Constitution. I'm going to work to pass an amendment enshrining property rights as ironclad. You know, this is what the right should be doing, is say, cool, you pick up where FDR left off, I'll pick up where the founding fathers left off. That's your two political parties.
It's so smart. So same here. Ditto 100%. 100.
Yeah. Another note that I have with this whole burn cucks, I hear this all the time. They're like, and you know, everybody falls prey to this. I fell prey to it when I was like first really getting into politics. When I was like, oh my God, it's all about economics. That's it. And so then I like got really into Austrian economics. I was reading Hayek and Ludwig von Mises and Chicago School, Milton Friedman. Yeah, all the Austrian school, all the Chicago school people. I was like, I even took a course from the von Mises Institute. Little did I know, I was actually taking a course from an anarcho-capitalist, but at the time I didn't know that.
Woo.
And about the economics of the Great Depression. I mean, I got really into this stuff, and I was just like, oh my God! And then you realize that it's not about economics; it's about deeper philosophy, like morality and things that really actually guide what people think. And economics, you know, Bernie said in this audio clip that you played, Russ, Bernie said that the economy, people need economic rights and access to the economy. And the economy is not this floating abstraction that you just kind of like, it's not like a swimming pool that you just dip your foot into. It's not this like collective floating abstraction that's just sort of out there and it just is what it is. An economy is people trading. That's like, producing value and trading values. Individuals. That is what an economy is. Let's talk about North Korea for a moment. And Russ, I feel like I'm dominating the floor here, so I apologize.
Not at all, man. Not at all. I'm into it. Go on, please.
Yeah, I mean, let's take if you don't believe me, then let's take North Korea for an example. North Korea has two separate economies. They have their domestic economy that are people producing stuff and trading within North Korea and to some extent outside of North Korea, but it's very, very difficult. And then they have a second economy. So what the North Korean government will do, they'll take prisoners, like political prisoners, ship them off to Russia and work them in labor camps, or they will allow North Koreans to volunteer to go work so China, for example, is building this huge rail through Mongolia and into Europe. It's called the I can't remember, rail and something. It's a weird name. Where we're setting up almost like a 21st century Silk Roads all over the world, which is exciting, also threatening at the same time, depending on how China uses it. But anyways, so the North Koreans will basically, the North Korean government will in effect rent people out to the Chinese government. And these people will be like, okay, well, I can actually make money. So like they'll pull these people who are starving to death from the countryside in North Korea, ship them out to Mongolia, and they'll just work building a rail line out there. And the North Korean government basically gives them a little bit of food so they can actually survive and then keeps the rest. And all of that money is how Kim Jong-un and Kim Jong-il and Kim Il-sung, this is where they got all their money from. This is how they fund the military. This is how they fund all this stuff, is through this second economy.
That's a fact.
So you can actually have multiple economies within a geographic area, like totally independent of each other. So economies are people dependent. They exist because people are doing things. They aren't these like floating abstractions where you just have this literal pie in the sky floating up in the air and you're just going to divvy some out to everybody. And socialists, they love to conceptualize it like that. And it's not that at all. When you take something out of the economy without trading, you are taking something that somebody produced without giving anything in return. Literally,
it's absolute theft and extraction. Yes, that is a fact.
So Bernie made a huge contradiction when he was like, people need economic security and independence. What the hell does that? We all know what that means when you say economic security. What does that mean? What do you think that means, Russ, when Bernie says economic security?
That means that we work to pay for people who will not work is exactly what it means, right? Yeah. That means taxation.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then independence. So it's like he uses that in the same sentence. Economic security and independence. Independence from what? What if I don't want to economically secure people? Can I be independent from that? And then, the last thing I have is this going on about rights, freedom of religion, assembly, press, and those are all proper freedoms that one ought to have. That is a right. And then he goes to free education, retirement, and job. Those are not, those are rights to something that somebody else produced. Who are you enslaving, the professors or the taxpayers when you talk about free education?
Yeah.
Who is it? You're enslaving somebody. Who is it?
Yeah, that's exactly it. Yeah. Like, again, the original point, what I was saying in the beginning, like when you have a right to this, you have a right to free speech, that is guaranteed by the government, right? When you have the right to peaceable assembly, that is guaranteed by the government. Every right is guaranteed by something. Now, you got to listen to this rhetoric from Bernie Sanders very closely, dear listener. What he is talking about is that you will guarantee everyone's right to economic security. You will guarantee everyone's right to a free education. That's what it is. It's really terrifying. And there's this other, I've got the audio pulled up, actually. I'm not going to play it because I don't want to play Anderson Cooper. But he was on Anderson Cooper after he gave his rally. I believe it was on Wednesday. It might have been last night. It was Wednesday night. It was Wednesday night. And Anderson Cooper is like, okay, what say you about these criticisms that you're getting on your platform? Because there's no way that you can do these things you want to do, free education, free retirement, economic security, all this kind of stuff. There's no way you can do this without raising taxes. Bernie Sanders, do you know what he says, Luke? I believe the American taxpayer will be delighted to pay their taxes when they get free health care, when they get their free retirement, when they get their economic security. They'll be more than happy to pay their taxes.
Moronic.
Except, I know, it's just stupid, man. They're very slick, these dim socks, man. You got to give it to them. They always go right back to the boilerplate. They're very slick.
Yeah, they're linguistic experts. I mean, notice economic security. Like, that's such a friendly, fluffy little word. Imagine if he was like, Pete, you have a right to financial security. That would not sit the same with people. Like, what fine? Well, okay. So you have a right to money, other people's money, like that. That's too easily connected for people. So you have to use this economic security as if like, oh, I don't really know what that means. Okay, yeah, it's just totally ridiculous. Anybody who is democratic socialist, they are the most dishonest and unthinking people in the United States. Like, principled though they are totally to the extent that they are principled democratic socialists is the extent to which they are dishonest and unthinking. They necessarily have to be.
Indeed, sir.
All right, man. I think we slayed that. Do you want to move on to the next one?
Oh, yeah, I'm going to read a couple paragraphs real quick from the American Thinker. It was a piece by William Sullivan. It is called Capitalism Makes Miracles, Socialism Makes Dust. I'm going to go to paragraph 3. Here it goes right here. There was a time when I had never considered all of what goes into the production of what is now an 8-cent pencil. How many industrial miracles occur as a means to produce that simple pencil? How many individuals are employed in entirely separate industries, subsisting on mining the ore and extracting the metals used to produce machinery that harvest the timber, later sawn into appropriate sizes by equally complex machinery. What could the common man know about the intricate details of what goes into the extraction or assembling of the components used to make its simple eraser? The painted and indented lettering on the side, or the brass casing that houses the eraser, or the yellow lacquer, or the lead, which is not lead but an amalgam of compressed graphite shaped into small cylinders and laid between two tightly conjoined pieces of wood. The pencil is a microcosm for a larger observation that I was incapable of understanding when I was a child. Millions of adults still just can't seem to grasp that such simple things are the wonders created by humanity, and it is only a free market comprising individuals, not central planning by powerful government officials who lack the imagination of individuals motivated by profit, that can produce such things at such low costs, thereby making them so commonplace in our lives that we don't recognize how miraculous they are. Man, I've got several more paragraphs, but Mr. Sullivan, beautifully said.
Yeah, that's a very famous economic example of the free
I've heard it
markets.
before,
Is that there's nobody in the world who, from start to finish, knows how to create a pencil. Nobody. And there's a video on YouTube. I don't know. I've never actually seen the video because I learned it in a different setting. But yeah, this is a very famous economic argument in defense of free market economics, which is that like literally nobody knows how to build a pencil. I'm sorry, not one person. Like not one single person knows all the steps of how to build a pencil. Or at least can. They don't. It's people working together to do it, which is the point.
That's an economy right there. That's it. Laying bare into the simple example of a number 2 pencil for 8 cents. That's it.
Yeah. If anybody says, I need economic security, just hold the pencil in the air.
Yeah. Free pencils, bro. How's that?
Yeah.
All right, man. Well, let's ride on next. What we got on the trail next?
California, dude. I'm excited about this, and then we should break after that. Actually.
Okay. Yeah. That sounds good. This ties in perfectly with what we were just talking about socialism. Here's another American Thinker piece dropped on Wednesday. It's written by Patricia McCarthy. I'm going to take it from the lead. It goes thus: Mark Levin appeared at the Reagan Library in Simi Valley, California, on Saturday night. The event was a celebration of his new best-selling book, Unfreedom of the Press. It was a glorious evening. The auditorium was packed with several thousand fans with an overflow crowd in another room. Levin delivered not a speech, but a conversation. John Hugbush, The director of the Reagan Library introduced Levin, then the two of them sat down. Hugh Bush asked questions, and Levin answered in his usual inimitable fashion. The crowd loved it. I'm going to skip the rest of the paragraph. Our state debt is over 1.5 trillion. We have the highest gasoline prices in the nation. Oh, and we are a sanctuary state that protects all manner of illegal immigrants, no matter how serious the crimes they've committed. Think Jose Garcia Zarate, who killed Kate Steinle. He had been deported 7 times, but was out and about on the streets of San Francisco with the blessing of SF law enforcement. They aim to protect the criminals at the expense of the law-abiding. ICE is the enemy in sanctuary cities. The thugs are the victims. The piece goes on in rather detail. I didn't give you the title of the piece. The piece is this: Can California be saved, or is it too late? I think this is an important question. We've got all kinds of madness going on in California this week. As of June 1st, minimum wage just went up to, I believe it's $15.35. Is that correct, Luke? It's either 15 even or 15.35.
Yeah, I mean,
right?
Who cares?
Yeah. It's negligible. But immediately what we are seeing is lack of services, immediate increase in prices all over San Francisco. Dearest listener actually put a God-tier tweet out about that earlier this week. And the effects of it were immediate. We've got this other madness going on right now where California just guaranteed free health care for illegal aliens from age 18 to 26. Gavin Newsom originally considered health care for the over 64 age demographic, but nah, we don't need their votes. F them. They can just go off and die. They're too expensive. No, we want to cultivate these 18 to 26-year-olds, and we want free health care. It's only about $100,000 or so, bro. It's only going to cost the state about $98 million. That's going to cost you billions of dollars, sir. Believe this. And guess who's going to pay for it, Luke? Do you know who they're taxing in order to do this?
Who?
Working citizens who can't afford health care under Obamacare at the Obamacare exchanges in California, right? So basically, they have reenacted the individual mandate, and they're coming after the people who work and can't buy health care for themselves. That's how they're going to pay for free health care for illegal aliens, people who can't afford their own health care, American citizens who work, who can't afford their own health care. They're going to tax them. That's what's up. They're going to tax them. Some other madness has just gone on in California, and this just dropped yet last night by judicial decision. They have just legalized pot in prison, Luke. Inmates can have pot, right? The judge basically made the decision on this. Well, we just legalized marijuana. That applies to people in prisons too. Marijuana in prisons. Now, they haven't said whether or not you can smoke it in prison. You definitely can't sell it in prison, but you can have it in prison. What the hell is the purpose of having marijuana if you're not going to smoke it in prison, right?
I mean, what's the purpose of having it if you're not going to smoke it anywhere?
Yeah. Yeah, they announced this last night on Tucker Carlson, and my dad flipped out, and I was sitting there talking with him about it. He was like, prisoners have no rights. That's the purpose of being in prison. You committed a crime and you lose your rights. I was like, dang, right. You're right about that, Dad. So the argument is this, okay, so this is obviously, we've got 58,000 people living homeless on the streets of Los Angeles right now. They say officially 7,500 homeless in San Francisco. Luke and I moved out of San Francisco. We know it's tens of thousands. Homeless people, American veterans, living in squalor on the streets, human feces everywhere, needles everywhere, garbage everywhere. We know that this is the product of socialism. It is these Democrats who run this state roughshod. It is their policies who have put them there. And now we get into an argument that Rush made this week, Luke, and this is what I want to ask you about right here. His argument is this: Democrats are not going to visit California. They're not going to touch that with a 10-foot pole. For them to go and say, we're going to fix the homelessness problem, we're going to clean up the human feces, we're going to clean up the trash, they're not going to do that. Why is this? Because it's a tacit admission that they were the people who caused it. Now, of course, they're going to go to California and fundraise, but they're not going to go there and throw rallies and speak to the people about how they're going to fix these problems among the state, in the state, because they themselves caused this problem. So now we get back to what Rush Limbaugh says. Rush Limbaugh says President Trump should go out there and start burning it down in terms of campaigns and campaigning, throwing rallies, all of this kind of stuff. He says, strike now while the iron is hot. Go out there and make the case. Are you going to win California? No, you're not going to win California. Go make the case anyway, because it's completely undefended territory politically right now. And then everybody from, on the ditto horn calls up Rush. Absolutely, I'm from California. Yeah, come President Trump. Nobody can save us but you. I happen to know that our buddy Nate really was angry at Trump for not going to California during the midterm elections. He didn't campaign there at all. He thinks it was an absolutely unforced error. He also thinks that California Trump supporters deserve a recognition from the president. What say you about this, Luke? Does Trump go to California? Should Trump go to California and make the case right now? I will tell you, before you answer, I am ambivalent. I don't know. What do you think?
Absolutely. Unquestionably.
You think so?
Yeah. Unequivocally,
okay.
Yes.
Okay. I get it.
For the same reason that Beto's doing the same thing in Texas. And look where he got.
Yeah.
Same thing. Go on the offensive.
That's a shrewd point.
Stop trying to protect your territory. Go on the offense. Go to California. This is the thing. The left doesn't think about it in terms of can we win? No. Okay, we're not going to go there. They think about can we win Texas? No, but we might gain a little bit. And you know what? 2 years from now, we might gain a little bit more. And 2 years from now, we'll gain a little bit more. And eventually, Texas is going to be blue. That's how the left thinks.
Yeah,
same thing.
We're on the verge of flipping blue right now, man. Their diligence is paid off in the state of Texas. That's a great
and
comparison.
they've been doing this for 100 years since FDR, as Bernie pointed out. So do it in California. Go to California. Go to New York. Go on the offensive. And the other thing is,
I get your point,
and it makes it puts the left on their heels too. When you're on the defensive, they don't need to worry about California. It's just like fighting a war. Like force them to allocate resources to places that they otherwise wouldn't.
To defense. Right.
Money, time, attention, frustration. Put them on the defense. Because otherwise you're on the defense. You're on your heels. And they're like, okay, cool. Yeah, we're not spending any money on California. Trump's not even going to go there. We're not spending any money. Force them to spend a bunch of money there.
I mean, that's exactly what Beto did to Ted Cruz, man.
Absolutely.
And that's exactly what he did, and he almost won. It was terrifying, man. 52-48, that should have been a landslide victory for Ted Cruz, and Beto almost took the Senate seat. And can you imagine had we lost Ted Cruz from the Senate? Oh, my God.
This is the problem with the right, is they don't have moral certainty. They don't have moral fortitude. The left, they have moral certainty. They're like, yes, of course we are right. Of course we are correct, I should say, because if we say right, then it gets confusing. They're like, of course we're correct. They're right. They're over there. They have all these contradictions they're sorting out, and they've got not hating on the religious right, but the religious right definitely has these be your brother's keeper ethics, and the left correctly points out, it's like, well, we are trying to pass laws that are be your brother's keeper laws. You should be on board with that. And then the right is over there, correctly rejecting that and saying, no, I'm for freedom, but they have to do it in kind of a way that's uncomfortable for them, so they don't. And that's just but one example. That's just an easily, understood example. So they don't really have this let's go into California with guns blazing and take it. They don't really have that sort of excitement about their own positions. They're sort of they're conservative. That's the name of the party. Let's not go flip California. Let's just not lose Iowa. You know what I mean? They need to be progressive in their own right. Let's progress towards freedom. Go take California. Don't stop at the states we won. Go take all these other states. Go on the offense. Force them to allocate resources. But in order to do that, you need to be certain. You need to have moral certainty. You need to have moral fortitude, and be pursuing something and not just trying to conserve the status quo and defend.
All right, man. Well argued. You convinced me. My ambivalence stems from this detail right here. Now, you and I were in San Francisco back in 2015 after Trump descended the gilded escalator with Melania in Trump Tower, and he started immediately coming out and throwing rallies in California. San Jose, what's that town just south of San Francisco? Starts with a B, not Brisbane. Oh, dang it.
It is Brisbane.
The one where he had to... It is Brisbane? Is that where he was? Okay, yeah, and he had to jump over... He had to flee the scene and jump over that highway median.
No.
Burlington.
Burlingame. I mean, there is a town right north of that big mountain, just south of San Francisco. That's Brisbane. But then,
you're right. You're right. So but it was Burlingame, and Trump had to flee the scene after the leftists just absolutely started destroying the place. You know, his rallies in Redding, California, up in conservative NorCal were quite a bit more successful and very well attended and enthusiastic. But like my only exception to your premise is this. If he goes to California, well, this is exactly what the left is going to do again. It will be just like when Ben Shapiro and Milo got thrown out of San Francisco, just like when Milo got thrown off the campus of Berkeley and they destroyed it. Just like that woman got thrown eggs all over outside of the Shark Tank in San Jose for that Trump rally. And this will be squarely blamed on Donald Trump, right? So I think that there is a risk of losing some optics here. Nonetheless, I do agree with your premise.
I mean,
yes,
I say
keep
good.
the left on their heels.
Good. Dude, look where we are today as a result of all of that.
True, man. We're afraid to wear MAGA hats in public.
Milo became. He skyrocketed because of that. In terms of,
it's true.
And Ben Shapiro and you know the intellectual dark web. You know, say what you will, but like the intellectual dark web exists today because of all of that.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah,
and people don't like that. Again, like what we were talking earlier, like the media and all these people, they're out of touch. People don't like that. That's off-putting when you see that. Like, go in there. Like it exhausts the city resources. It frustrates the mayors. It like do it. go bankrupt these cities. That's city budgets.
Damn fine point.
With security costs, and make it so blatantly apparent that do a rally every single day in San Jose until the city of San Jose goes bankrupt of security costs. That's what I would do.
Oh man, would you go to the belly of the beast in San Francisco? Would you do that?
I would rent out the what is it? The Bill Graham Civic Center. I would rent out. I would. In fact, I would be, if I were Trump, I would be on the phone right now, and I would say, I want to rent out every single night of the Civic Center for 2020, and I will be there and then I would call the Fairmont. I'd say, give me your nicest suite for all of 2020. I'm going to negotiate a group rate right now. And I'm just going to live there, and I'm just going to commute back and forth to the Civic Center, and I will just bankrupt San Francisco over the course of a year. That's what I would do.
Huh.
I mean, I wouldn't actually do that, but like,
I get your rhetoric though.
Yeah.
Pretty funny, man.
Just because, like, to make it so apparent, like they're giving stand down orders, they're not solving the problems. Like, I'm going to force this problem. You know, it's like when people go see a therapist. Most people, I'm convinced, I've never been to a therapist, but I've thought about this before. I'm convinced that like most people who go to a therapist know the answers to their problems. They just don't want to admit it.
Right.
And many times the job of a therapist, now many times it's to help them understand their problems, but I think a lot of times they need some objective third party to tell them what their problems are. Because they don't want to admit it themselves. And it's like, that's what going and doing these rallies does. It's like, I'm your therapist and I'm going to force you to face your problems right now until it can no longer be ignored. That's what these riots and the Battle of Berkeley and Antifa,
Battle of Sacramento, all these battles, man.
Yeah, Battle of Oregon, the Trump rallies, people throwing eggs.
Yeah.
I mean, people don't see this and like, they see the videos. They don't see this and go, oh my God, these are violent Trump supporters. No, they go, oh my God, these are disgusting leftists.
It's true.
That's what any sane person would do. And if they don't think that, they're never going to anyway. So they're a lost cause. So you're just red pilling the masses when you do stuff like this.
Yeah. I'm sold. So, well, Rush said it first, man. So well said, Rush. You know, Nate, also, I've got to invoke you. You've been saying this since 2018 that Trump needs to get out to California right now, that California is ripe for it, that California needs it. Luke just made a really credible argument, maybe not in the same way that Nate would have made it. I'm sold. I agree. So, Mr. President, we do know that you listen to the show. Here on your birthday, your 73rd birthday, the HSP boys are on record recommending that you go burn it down in California. No pun intended. Don't literally go burn it down. So we break now?
Yeah, let's do break.
All right.
I can give dear listener the rundown on this break.
Yeah,
here.
absolutely, man. This is the goddess tier thing. Luke sent it to me last night, was it? Yeah, you did. It was last night. Oh my God, yeah. Tell dear listener, I can't wait.
Yeah, so this is taken from a debate which happened, I believe, in Toronto back in 1984. And this is a capitalist versus socialism debate. The debate is divided into, 15, 20 videos, something like that. It's a 2-on-2 debate, 2 capitalists versus 2 socialists. The 2 capitalists are Dr. John Ridpath and Dr. Leonard Peikoff. Peikoff is the intellectual heir to Ayn Rand. Ridpath is just somebody who's, historically been involved with the Ayn Rand Institute. I don't know how many times I've watched this debate, probably 5 to 10 times. Like I said, it's like 15 to 20 videos. So each constructive is its own video, which they're about 5 to 10 minutes. The responses are their own videos, and then there's a few Q&A videos. And this is the single most one-sided victory I have ever seen in a debate of any kind ever.
Could not agree more.
And this one segment is about 5.5 minutes, is Dr. Ridpath. So this is I think it's the 8th video. So they've made the introduction video, then each side has made constructives, and then Dr. Ridpath finally comes up. So all the constructives are done. So this is kind of like now when you can start responding to the other person, what they're saying. And he just eviscerates them in this clip. So if you want to go ahead and play it, Russ, go for it.
All right. Yeah, indeed. This clip, we're going to take a shorter audio break this time, dear listener. We're going to play it in its entirety, but this clip is only 5 minutes and 45 seconds. Shorter break this time. You're going to love it, dear listener. Taking it from the top. Luke and I will be back at you before you know it.
Dr. Ridpath.
Dr. Vickers has said that she wants to bring this debate down to reality. And by that, she really means she wants to bring this discussion down to an unphilosophical level. Well, I have news for you. This is a philosophical topic. You were invited here to discuss philosophy. You were invited here to discuss the morality behind your views, and I'm expecting you to do that, and the audience is expecting you to do that. I'd like to say that this is the 5th year in a row that I've debated socialists around this time of the year in a format similar to this. And I've had it with you people. I really have had it with you people. Why it is that I can't get into an intellectual and philosophical debate with you people escapes me. Every time I come into a debate, I'm faced with euphemisms, sarcasms, ad hominem arguments, vagueness, evading the point, appealing to emotion, and I've simply fed up with this. For you to come in here and intimate that we are appealing to childish wishes, that we are offering seductive ideas, that we are advocating some utopian future in the unknown, some unknown time in the future, that some of us, but certainly not the rightists, believe in peace, that we are actually advocates of McCarthyism, that we are advocates of torture. That is totally inexcusable. We have been standing here arguing for the repudiation.
Whoa, sorry about this. Here we go.
Of physical force in human affairs. How can you say that we are an advocate of torture, McCarthyism, and all of these things? Are you not hearing what we're saying? Now, this debate is on a serious issue. And the essence of the issue, as far as I see it, with regards to socialism versus capitalism, capitalism properly defined as we've defined it, is the role of the initiation of physical force in human affairs, which you have not addressed yourself to. The truth of the matter is the state is a coercive institution, and you, as socialists, are advocating the coerced imposition of your view of the beautiful society on everybody here. That's the truth. You have the gall to have some view of the way men should live and be prepared to force it on everybody through the use of the state. And that is totally immoral, and that is the issue that we are discussing here, and you have failed to address that issue completely. This is not entertainment. This is a serious issue. This debate is over serious ideas, and you are not really prepared to discuss the issues on the level we're talking about. We have gone to considerable pains to present the argument behind our moral view. Save it for the question period. Just for those of you who are commenting that we are advocating fascism, I'll say it one more time. Capitalism, as we are advocating it, is a social system which would repudiate the use of force by anyone, including the government, and that is clearly the moral opposite of any fascist system. Now, the truth is that capitalism as a social system acknowledges the nature of man. It acknowledges the fact that men have to act in order to live, that men have to think before they act, that men deserve the fruits of their efforts after they act, that men deserve the right to own their own property. Capitalism as a social system, in recognizing the nature of man, produces a social system, or would produce a social system when fully adopted, which would in fact be truly benevolent and truly productive, and would bring to all men, a truly prosperous future. The argument for capitalism is the argument for individualism, the argument for rational self-interest, and the argument for rejecting the barbarism of solving our social problems through the use of a coercive institution. Capitalism in moral grounds is completely the opposite of socialism, of fascism, of communism, of totalitarianism, of Attila the Hun, and every other form of statist society that you can think of. In that sense, capitalism stands alone, advocating a free society, a society where men reject this, as against all of the other versions of society that adopt the use of force in one form or another. Thank you.
All right, welcome back to HSP episode number 42, dear listener. Russ, what did you think of that break, dude?
Dang. Just fantastic, dude. Nothing else. Absolute schooling.
Totally. Dear listener, you really should go watch that. I don't know, Russ. I think it would probably be worth in the future, just kind of like, there's probably about 10 of those videos just like that. When we need an audio break in the future, we can just pull one of those.
Yeah, we can harvest these, man.
Yeah.
There are actually 22 of them, Luke. 22.
Are there? Oh,
So,
wow.
Yes. Yeah. Uh-huh.
I knew that. Yeah,
They're
I knew
all
they were
organized into a playlist. Yeah.
I've watched, God, man, I bet I've watched this debate in its entirety, start to finish, like at least 5 or 10 times.
Yeah.
Dear listener, I for a long time in San Francisco, like 2 years, all I would do is I lived a 10-minute walk from my work, and I lived about a 15-minute walk from my gym. And so I would go to work in the morning. I would be thinking the whole time. And then I would leave work like thinking about this sort of stuff, philosophy, politics, economics, this stuff. I'd think about it all the way on the way to work, and then I'd work. And then on the way home from work, I would think about it again. And then I would immediately change into my gym gear. I would go to the gym. Then I would come home, and on the way to the gym, I would be listening to stuff like this. Then when I was be working out, I'd either be listening to music or listening to stuff like this, then listen to stuff like this coming home. And then I would cook dinner and do the dishes until about 9 or 10 at night. And all I would do is be listening to this. And I did that for like 2 straight years.
That's a fact.
So I've listened to so much stuff. That was even before like Jordan Peterson and all those people came along.
It was. Yeah.
Which is probably a good thing, because I was able to listen to the same things over and over and over again to really like understand and internalize things. So much content these days. It's hard to It's hard to internalize stuff. There's just so much coming at you all the time.
Absolutely. You know? And then when you're producing content all the time, that ratchets things up yet another
my
level.
God. Yeah, dude.
Not to cry. We love doing it, dear listener, but it is a fact. It is a fact.
Yeah, totally. But this is a really good debate. They totally eviscerate them. It's a total one-sided victory. I really enjoyed it. I really liked the part when Dr. Ridpath went on about how capitalism is a system that stands alone, and that's entirely true.
Yep.
Capitalism is the only system that has that the feature is the extraction of coercion from society. That is the purpose of the government, is the extraction of it's the one. It stands alone as the one that is its feature. The others are how to properly introduce force into society. And they just disagree on how to do that. Capitalism stands alone and says, no, that's the role of the government is not to introduce force into society. It's to remove it through police, military, and courts.
To guarantee your freedom from one another, to guarantee your freedom from the government. That's exactly it right there, man.
Yeah, from one another. I mean, and when he says that it produces a society of benevolence, he doesn't just throw that term out there lightly. That's literally true. I mean, where else have so many religions so peacefully lived for so long other than the United States, where you have freedom of religion?
Fact.
If you had freedom in terms of economics, if you had freedom from each other financially, in terms of taxation, you'd have the same effect. You'd have peace among men. But because because politics is in money, now we have all these conflicts of interest. I mean, in Germany here, if one of your relatives, if somebody gets sick, the government doesn't take care of you. They look to your relatives and they force your relatives to take care of you. Everybody is shackled to each other. And socialism, everybody is shackled to each other. And as a result, you're constantly having to look, who's my neighbor? Who am I shackled to? Who am I responsible for?
That's the goddess tier point of all.
And so I had to have a conversation with Jessica. I'm just like, is somebody going to come after us at some point? Like needing money, like that, not somebody, but the government. Is the government going to come after us and say, oh, your second cousin is sick and needs to be taken care of, and he doesn't have you're the nearest next of kin. And it's a real threat. It's crazy. You Americans don't understand how serious this is. And we had to have a serious conversation about like who around us could we possibly be responsible for, on the hook for? There's a guy, Jessica's cousin, his father is in a nursing home and the government they're not going to pay for it. So they garnish the wages of his son to pay for his nursing home bills.
Dang.
Yeah.
Dang.
And his wife, so he has money. He gets money from the government each month. He gives it to his wife. And then the government garnishes the son's wages and pays his nursing home bills with that. So basically, he's stealing money from his son and giving it to his wife.
Right.
So this is,
unbelievable, man.
How can you live in how is that benevolent? Like you can't when your neighbor is your threat, your family is your family members are a potential claim upon your life. How are you supposed to have a benevolent attitude towards everybody around you? It's impossible. Everyone's a threat to each other.
Dang. Just God tier, man. I'm so glad you sent that to me, Luke. I watched it twice last night. It's just so fantastic, man. Thank you very much. Good call for the audio drop. Tied in perfectly with segment 2, if I may say, which I do.
Well, I'm glad you enjoyed it, man.
Yeah, very much. Very much.
You want to jump on, or you want to head on to? I got to do Hong Kong.
Let's head on to what's going on in Hong Kong now, dear listener. Before we take this little branch here on the trail, let me just say before we get into this, okay, Luke and I are on top of what's going on in Iran. All right, yes, the war drums are banging. Luke and I have decided intentionally not to discuss it yet. We are going to study it a little bit more, even though we get the basic gestalt of what's going on. And we're just going to let this develop for another week before we talk about it. But things are not looking great with our political situation with Iran right now. We're on top of it. We know. when we are ready to detail it for you, we'll take it down, dear listener. But just don't think that we're being neglectful or not paying attention to what's going on. Now, what Luke is going to talk about, Luke's got the study on this. There was a major riot in Hong Kong this week, and this riot is like 1.5 million people rioting in Hong Kong, protesting, but like it was really kind of out of hand because the Chinese government in Beijing has declared that there is an extradition treaty that forces Hong Kong to extradite whomever Beijing wants. This also applies to Taiwan and some other territory, Luke, which is the third territory.
I don't know. I thought it was just Hong Kong.
Yeah, it's Hong Kong and Taiwan for sure.
It has to be just Hong Kong because it's not the Chinese government that proposed this. It's the Hong Kong government that proposed this upon themselves.
What?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Do red pill me. Okay. Now, I do know that Taiwan also is tied up in this somehow. I know that for a fact. Let me red pill about it a little bit more. Again, dear listener, Luke's got the study on this, man. So, Luke, red pill me. What's going on with this?
Yeah, I mean, it wouldn't surprise me if Taiwan's also doing this because the idea that Hong Kong is really doing this upon them is totally absurd. This is pro-Beijing politicians in Hong Kong who are catering to Beijing's wishes. So, while they publicly said that it was that they proposed, really behind the scenes, it's Beijing. So if it's happening in Taiwan, that doesn't surprise me, but it's independent from Hong Kong. Does that make sense? So Beijing is probably doing this in several places at the same, or in more than one place, but each one of those instances is independent from one another.
Dang.
But yeah, really, like I want to really quick about Iran. Yeah, I just want to echo what Russ said. I mean, look, there's just not a lot to know just yet. We talked about it. We wanted to talk about it, but we don't want to just say, okay, now this happened over here, and here's our totally unverified and guess as to. I mean, we just need to. One thing that we don't want to do is become this show where we just like breaking news, and we're just going to talk about it. We're not going to talk about something unless there's something to talk about, and there's nothing to talk about yet. We're just waiting for more information.
Yeah, even basic facts at this point in time are unknowable. I mean, yes, there were attacks on 2 petroleum ships yesterday. Okay, we know these facts, right? We don't know the forces behind these facts just yet, and we're just cooling our heels on this and studying, and we'll get back to you.
I mean, anything anybody's saying at this point is just basically pure speculation. So,
yes, sir.
And we don't, I don't know. There's other things that we can be doing with our time than speculating. So in any case, moving on. Yeah. So in Hong Kong, you probably saw in the news, there's over 1 million people protesting in the streets. As of Wednesday, businesses are shutting down, going on strike. And they are protesting Hong Kong's extradition bill. Now, this was proposed by the Hong Kong government, not by the Chinese government, but make no mistake, the Chinese government is behind this for sure.
For sure.
And what this extradition bill it allows the Chinese authorities to force Hong Kong authorities to arrest and deport suspected criminals, not criminals, but suspected criminals to mainland China. So again, if the Chinese determine that someone is a dissident and here's the rub. The laws in China are a little bit different than the laws in Hong Kong. I don't know if you're aware, dear listener, but Hong Kong is the freest civilization on earth.
It truly is.
Yeah.
Due to British custodianship of Hong Kong, which they returned to the mainland Chinese in 1995, I believe it was, Luke.
It was 97.
97. That's it. And it's kind of been on fester since 1997.
Well, no. Long before that. It's been on fester for 100 years.
Basically. Oh, yeah. For sure. But like what I'm talking about is developing and growing tensions between mainland China and Hong Kong itself.
Yeah. So basically, this was a British colony. Basically, the British came in, the British have a very sophisticated rule of law. We inherited that, fortunately. And, they have a very good rule of law. This is why the Caymans, for example, like they're also very free and doing very well. It's because they have the sophistication of British rule of law, which is basically capitalism, without all of the political nonsense and economic nonsense. So they kind of just went to this rock off the coast of mainland China, installed British rule of law, and now it's Hong Kong, which is crazy. And they kind of just left it alone up until 1997, and then they made a deal with the Chinese where they would give it to the Chinese, but the Chinese wouldn't do anything. It wouldn't make any changes for 50 years. So that's supposed to last until 2047, unless Hong Kong does it to itself.
Just so.
Hence why this is really the Chinese behind this. Now,
dang, that is so fascinating, Luke. That, man, I'm glad you cleared that up. I didn't know that at all. But now this whole thing makes perfect sense now. Sorry to interrupt, man. Sorry.
Oh, no worries. Yeah. But here's the thing. Like you mentioned, Russ, it's been kind of on fast. So the Chinese have had it since 97, but not really done a whole lot. But now they're taking liberties, which they couldn't before. And the question is why? And the reason is that China, for example, has themselves come up. They've been on the come up in the last 30, 40 years. So you have Shanghai, Beijing, Shenzhen, which is across Kowloon Bay from Hong Kong. I mean, Shenzhen was, Yarnbrook always says Hong Kong was a fishing village 70 years ago. That's patently false. That's verifiably, factually false. Shenzhen, across from Hong Kong, was a fishing village. That was mainland China. And when China started adopting more capitalism, I mean, that literally went from a fishing village to it's as impressive as Hong Kong is now, just across Kowloon Bay. And I know I've been there. I've been to both. I don't know if I've talked about traveling there on the show, but it's really, really crazy, really, really impressive. Well, Hong Kong isn't like their jewel anymore. It's kind of, it's still really impressive, but they've got all these other crazy, crazy huge cities. Look at time-lapse videos of cities in China over the course of the last 30 years, since like 1985. It is insane.
I have looked at those. They're crazy. Yeah.
Insane. So like Hong Kong is just kind of like another large Chinese city at this point. It's more than that, but it's not like they need to be careful with them anymore. So they're taking liberties now with Hong Kong, and being a little bit more aggressive than they were before. And but they've got, it's going to be a tough road to hoe, because this is the freest civilization on earth. I specifically say civilization because, I mean, you can move to, some third world. Well, like Panama would be a good example. You could move to Panama. Panama City looks like freaking Miami if you look at the skyline. But drive a couple hours and you're in a third world country, and you can be totally free out there if you want to be totally free. Live off the grid, no address, nothing. But you're not in civilization either. And qua civilization, Hong Kong is the freest on earth. And the Chinese are, and the people understand that, and they seem to like and enjoy their freedoms. And they are really pushing back against China, which is great. But I don't know. I just, the Chinese are just going to press and press and press. Eventually, Hong Kong will have to give in, and we'll see what happens. But I think that'd be really sad. So anyways, moving on to what the actual bill is. So at first, the bill was to, any crimes punishable for more than 3 years, according to the Chinese government. That was what it was at first. They would extradite. Now it's any crime charged that could be charged for more than 7 years. So it changed a little bit, in favor. So they gave in a little bit. But, again, like we were talking, I was going to mention this earlier, the Chinese have sent a Catholic bishop in jail. He died in jail. And I'm getting all this from a YouTube channel called China Uncensored. I'll link to it. It's a fantastic, comfy. I love this guy's YouTube channel.
We played it for an audio drop 2 shows back for episode number 40, I believe. Yeah, maybe 39.
Yeah, he's got a video up, and I watched this and I just took notes. So I didn't this is where I'm getting all this from. Yeah, so full disclosure. So they changed it to 7 years, and the Chinese, they don't have similar, or they don't have similar laws to Hong Kong, which is like Hong Kong is super free. So China can there could be some Catholic bishop or some dissident or somebody doing something in Hong Kong, and the Chinese government see it, and then they just go to the Hong Kong authorities and be, yep, that guy, you need to bring him over to mainland. He's getting prosecuted. That's what this bill is. So this is the largest protest that has occurred since the UK handed over China in 1997. the protests are a major cross section of people. 1/3 of them have never protested before. The protesters include societal elites, business people, lawyers, students, influential people, basically everybody, which is what makes this different. Everybody in Hong Kong is angry at this point. It's not just some free speech students or something. Like, everybody is angry.
Yeah, this is like Yellow Vest times 1 million is what this is.
Yeah.
Straight up.
Yeah. And Carrie Lam, who's the chief executive of Hong Kong, she said this was voluntary, that the Chinese didn't even so much as ask her to do this, which is totally fallacious. That's totally wrong. And people are walking. I sent Russ actually this photo of Donald Trump firing Carrie Lam, that people were walking around with these banners. They're walking around with hammer and sickle photoshopped with, totally tinted in red over Carrie Lam's face. So Hong Kong,
saying,
they're
make Hong Kong great again.
Yeah, make Hong Kong great. They seem to be pretty red pilled. Now here's the interesting thing, Russ. You're gonna like this. Earlier, I mentioned we were going to say something about the Chinese, how they're reacting to this. So what are the Chinese? How are they reacting to all this? Well, they're blaming it on something we are very familiar with.
Oh, yeah.
That the media, that our own media do. The Chinese are blaming it all on...
Surprise, surprise, surprise. Guess who?
Foreign interference. So they
came out basically and said it was a CIA operation orchestrated by none other than Donald Trump. This literally they didn't literally say it, they implied it literally.
Yeah, but the point is that they're just doing the same thing our media is doing. It's like, oh, it's the foreign influence. It's not us. It's not us trying to control people and be authoritarian. It's this foreign ironically, it's the foreigners.
Yeah.
But yeah, they are blaming it on CIA, which is total nonsense. It's not. They just picked out random people and put them on a newspaper and said, "Oh, it's the CIA." That's all it is. But the white pilling thing is that the protests have worked. They've had to put this bill off and off. They've had to now postpone it twice. They keep trying to push it through and ramrod it through, and people keep protesting. So who knows if it's going to pass or not? But I don't know, man. I don't know, Russ. I have my outlook on this is good. It's positive.
Yeah, me too. Absolutely. And I'm all like the Yellow Vests. I'm all about the protesters in this particular case. They seem to be pretty based and pretty red pilled and seem to understand what their self-interest is. And so, yeah, I'm pretty white pilled about it too. And like, man, a protesting force of 1.5 million, dang, that's impossible to shut down. I mean, how many people live in Hong Kong, Luke? Is it like 30 million? Is that right? 30, 40 million?
Well, it's a bit deceiving because it's an island.
Right.
So when you consider like Shenzhen and that whole area, hold on.
Macau. Yeah. It's Macau. It's Taiwan, Hong Kong, and Macau. Sorry, I forgot that. Yeah, it's Macau.
So Hong Kong is 7.3 million. But I mean,
okay.
Once you consider, Macau, Shenzhen, and all these other places, I mean, who knows how many people, like tens of millions of people. But I don't think,
sure.
But those people aren't coming in. It's just Hong Kong.
So what that means, based on the breakdown of population numbers, that means, dear listener, that 1 in 7 are rioting and not rioting, they're protesting in the streets. 1 in 7 people in Hong Kong. And I guarantee you those other 6 that aren't out there protesting probably are physically unable and are certainly sympathetic to the cause of the protesters. This is a true uniting is what it looks like to me.
Totally.
There are no counter protesters. There are none.
Yeah. And I'm sorry, I said Shenzhen was across from Kowloon Bay. That's not true. Shenzhen is actually, so that's still Hong Kong. Shenzhen is on the side of another bay, kind of around the way, but I mean, it's not far away. Yeah.
Okay.
But yeah, I mean, this is just an attempt by the Chinese government over the course of many, many years. They're just going to slowly start tearing down that barrier. They're just eroding the barrier, so that at some point Hong Kong is just integrated fully as just another
Mainland
Chinese
China.
city. Yeah.
Yeah.
And if you've never been to Hong Kong, you have to go. It's so awesome. Hong Kong is one of my favorite cities I've ever been to.
Yeah, I have been through Hong Kong and didn't really get out and troll around the way I like to troll around, but it is magnificent, dude. It's something else. It really is, man.
The whole downtown is connected by sky bridges. You're almost never walking on a street. It's crazy. Like in the sky bridges, so like all these skyscrapers, the first few floors are malls. It's like the first 3 or 4 floors are just malls, like super nice, immaculate malls, crazy stone floors, and just crazy. And there's, it's not just malls. It's like movie theaters, grocery stores. The city itself is located in the bottom 3 floors of like all the skyscrapers around that entire city. And you just walk through the whole city in sky bridges from building to building to building. You almost never, the bars are up on elevated patios above, like not just patios, but like full gardens, up above the streets. It's insane. It is absolutely insane. It is so cool. It's the best skyline in the world, in my opinion. Hong Kong is absolutely fantastic. And if you've never been, that needs to be, and you like city travel, that needs to be at the top of your list. All right, dude, let's move on to GBS. What say you?
Well, we've got updates, corrections, and all that kind of business, but corrections are very simple this week. I believe it is once again 0, if I may say.
I don't have any corrections either. That puts us at what, 99%, I think?
Yeah, 99.2, I'm going to call it. Our fever goeth up is what's going on right now.
All right.
And Luke said before we hit the red button that he didn't really have much feedback this week. I've had overwhelmingly positive feedback, both on bots, thoughts, and drops, but especially HSP. And HSP number 41, our 1-year anniversary, Luke, was one of these shows that I felt great about. Don't get me wrong, but, I don't know. It didn't feel like a 1-year anniversary. And I must say, sir, number 42 right here in the house, our first show in year number 2 feels like a proper 1-year anniversary to myself. Yeah. And I don't know, this feeling of, I hate to be cheesy about it, but this togetherness with us here with dear listeners.
My collective.
That's
the HSP collective. WTF, I'm a collectivist now. That reminds me of the Molyneux when he was, did you ever watch his documentary? Like
I did. Yeah, because of you turned me on to it, so I watched it. Yeah.
When he's like marching in that parade, like the Polish nationalist parade. And so this guy Molyneux, he's a popular thinker on YouTube, dear listener. And hardcore staunch individualist for like the past 10 years. And he's also a trained actor, so he's kind of dramatic about things. He has this one famous line where he's like, by the end of the video, he stares at the screen, and he's French Canadian, so he has a little bit of an accent. And he stares at the screen at the end of this video, and he's like, "There are no more arguments.
There are no arguments." I think we may have played that, dude. We've at least said it. If we didn't play it, we've at least said it, man. Yeah.
Well, so he's marching in this Polish nationalist parade, and breaks down into tears, and he's like, I can't do it alone anymore. I've been an individualist, and I can't. It's, and he basically breaks down into tears and declares himself a collectivist.
Yeah.
I'm just like, oh my God, dude.
I know it. So histrionic. I love Molly though, man. Don't get me wrong.
I do too, man. I love Molly. Think it's funny. Yeah. But I like him in the same way that I like Alex Jones.
Yeah.
He's like a more intellectual version of Alex Jones.
Yeah. Now, also, since Luke just invoked Poland this week, dear listener, we do happen to know about the summit that went on with President Trump and the president of Poland. We know all about this. We're just not covering it this week. It's a God-tier summit. We're going to be sending some troops over to Poland in solidarity with them. This is good stuff, but too much business here on the trail this week. Too many sights to see. So that one made bottom of the stack, and I did not hit it on bottom of the stack last night, Luke. Dang. Man, I just didn't even think about it.
Botchstad slipping,
man. It's slipping, man. Yeah. We need some quality control around here. Tell you what. But we have a major update. And Luke, you want to tell dear listener about the update we got this week?
Yeah. So we last week on the 1-year anniversary episode, we talked about getting a way to support the show set up, and it was on Patreon. And literally Like, talk about serendipity. So, we're talking about how I was in touch with Dave Rubin's people, his executive assistant specifically, about getting on as a beta tester on this platform of theirs, of his and Jordan Peterson's. And so we recorded that episode, we put it out, and then literally the day that I go to sign up from Patreon, I check my email just before, literally minutes before. It's like, I'm going to check my email and then set up Patreon. And I get an email from, it's like some YouTube video or something, or no, yeah, it was like something that I had subscribed to, that Jordan Peterson finally announced their platform, which is called ThinkSpot. So I immediately went and researched it, and I reached out to this woman who, with whom I'm in contact about this beta testing. And so, yeah, now I'm in contact with them again about trying to get on as a beta tester. So,
fantastic.
We're not doing
good work.
We're not doing Patreon after all. I can't believe that happened right after we announced that. And
same here. And what's even more serendipitous, dear listener, I literally had a nightmare the night before Luke sent me this business about ThinkSpot, where Luke and I had been deplatformed from YouTube and Patreon.
No,
Fact.
Patreon.
Yeah, fact. Yeah.
Did you, in your nightmare, did you confess that you owned property?
Yeah. Probably.
I owned property. I will never wear glasses again. But
oh man,
yeah, I still think I'm gonna set up I found a widget, like you can set up not a widget, but like you can do these WordPress plugins to be able to allow people to subscribe directly through your website and support the show directly through there. So that is something that we still might do, because I don't know how long this beta testing thing is going to take. Who knows? I don't know. So I think in the meantime, not just a workaround, we'll leave it in place, but I'll put in some sort of functionality where if you want to support the show, you can go straight to the website and do it through there and just bypass Patreon and all these other people. That way there's no way we can get deplatformed, and we can make all the edgy jokes that we want and not worry about anything. Even though we're not that edgy anyways, but
it's true.
And yeah, when we get on to Jordan Peterson and Dave Rubin's platform, ThinkSpot, we will make the announcement. And although I don't know, I mean, I guess you have to be a beta tester if you want to support somebody. I don't know how that works.
Yeah, I don't either, man.
So we're going to do it straight through the website right now, and then we'll announce when ThinkSpot comes around.
Very good.
That's it on my side, man. I think we should probably move into GBS now.
Yeah, I think so too. But before we do, I just want to say I'm really excited about this platform. It is not just a payment platform, a support platform. This is a comprehensive sort of ecosystem, an economy of ideas. I'm really liking the sound of it, man. So hats off, Jordan Peterson. Thank you for delivering right on time, right under budget. Thank you so much, sir. I'm excited.
Yeah, for sure.
I'm excited
yeah,
to become a part of it, Luke. Yeah,
it seems like it's going to be a sort of like YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, Patreon.
Yeah.
Sort of mix.
Yeah, just so. Bigger than I imagined, for sure.
All right, man. GBS
now, man. All right, so, dear listener, Luke discovered this last week. As soon as we hit the black button last Sunday, it drops immediately, right then and there. Ted Cruz ends up on Ben Shapiro's Sunday special. We are really looking forward to this very much. Luke did the business on it, though. Now, listen, I'm a little bit pissed off at Ted Cruz right now because I sent him a nastygram as I reported in HSP number 41 about how he needs to get his head in the game because he doesn't really understand what's going on with this tariff bluff, which definitely paid out in the U.S. interest the way things look so far. Again, Luke and I we'll see how it goes. We'll see how it goes, you know? But anyways, he's not replied. I did invite him to come on the show too, Luke, and instead he rebuffed us for Ben Shapiro, man. Come on.
Well,
Ted.
dude, I mean, give him a break, man. He's a boomer. Probably doesn't know how to use
email.
it.
That's true. That's true.
If he does respond, it's probably going to be in like broken sentences with no punctuation in all caps. So
maybe so, but like, Mr. Cruz, sir, if I may say, Ben Shapiro is not your constituent. I am your constituent, sir. So rethink it. You might want to re-examine the HSP boys up in here. You might want to give us a visit sometime, sir, with all due respect. So, but I love Ted Cruz. Listen, dear listener, I get pissed off at him from time to time, but I love him. He's the lion of the Senate. Kidding. That was a bad reference, man. That was so bad. Sorry about that. Strike that from the record. All right, so this is episode number 54 of the Ben Shapiro Sunday Special. And what do you think about it before we get into this, Luke? You said you watched a little bit of it, so it's good? You think it's good?
Yeah, I think it's going to be good, but I think we should jump in. I think we should do 2 drops, and how long is the video?
It is 1 hour, 2 minutes, and 59 seconds. 1:03 is what it is.
All right. Jump into minute 30.
Minute 30. Yeah, I agree. All right. So I'm at 30 even. I just hovered my mouse, Luke, and there it goes right to number 30. I can't believe it. All right, here it comes. 30 coming at you, dear listener, and Luke.
And the message of jobs and freedom and security, that's a message that resonates. Now, listen, California is a special place. I'll tell you, it's interesting. When I'm out in California, I'll get together with conservatives, with Republicans, and it's almost like conservatives in California are beaten down. I'll tell you a point, though, that a lot of people don't know. Do you know what state has the most Republicans?
By numbers, we do. I mean, it's a very popular state, yeah.
There are more Republicans in California than there are in Texas. Every California Republican I tell that to is shocked and amazed. Now, there are even more Democrats. I'm not saying that conservatives are not outnumbered here. But a lot of the California conservatives and Republicans are just beaten down. They don't believe that they can change the state politics. But look, I think the Hispanic community is a conservative community, but we've got to respond to the needs and interests and values in the Hispanic community. If you look right now, today we have the lowest Hispanic unemployment ever recorded. We've also got the lowest African American unemployment ever recorded. Now, the clown show that is the Democratic 2020 primary, none of them are going to admit that. They're going to go to Hispanics and African Americans that are seeing the lowest unemployment ever recorded, and they're going to say, these policies are terrible for you. You should go back to the Obama-era policies where you had much higher unemployment, much higher poverty. That is nonsense. Let me give you one of my favorite stats the last 2 years.
I think we can cut it there, Russ.
Yeah, okay, fair enough. I mean, Luke, how does this happen, right? How do we get so lucky on these drops all the time? We always do. These drops tie the show together. What were we just saying back in segment 2 about California, dear listener? What did Ted Cruz just say? We could not have queued up a better drop than that one right there, Luke. We could not have done that. Now, I'm a little bit red-pilled about this. I did not know that there were more Republicans in California by number than in Texas. I had no idea. I just got red-pilled. I had no idea.
I mean, I knew there are a lot out there, but they're
for sure.
Spread out, you know?
They are, and they are completely defeated by the cities. There is urban tyranny against the countryside. That includes the Central Valley, NorCal. Used to be like OC. OC was a conservative holdout, but they got their elections corrupted and stolen from them. And so, that's an amazing fact. So, what you got to say about this drop, though, man? You had some business.
Yeah, I got 3 things I want to say about it.
All right.
The one thing is that when he says people are beaten down, they think it's just a lost cause. This is precisely why Trump should be out there campaigning.
Exactly. That's exactly
He needs to be, getting people energized, galvanized.
Yep. That's exactly what I was going to say too, man.
Yeah. And so Nate is, one of those people that
he is.
His morale, took a little bit of a punch to the morale there,
Yeah.
So, yeah. I think Trump campaigning, who knows what could happen? I mean, there's obviously a lot of Republicans in California. It just doesn't take much to get some more people to vote. And then now you outnumber them. So I don't think it's totally out of the question. Another thing about Ted Cruz talking about Hispanic culture being conservative. This is true. People illegals don't come over to America to work just so that they can be taxed at 20%. They want to keep their money just like Americans do. And
True.
Also, they're mostly Catholic. Like, they are culturally conservative. They are not like, going and walking in solidarity at the gay pride parade. They are not they are generally anti-abortion. They are cultural conservatives, and they are mostly economic conservatives. Now, where the problem is when you have the left just promising them free money, free handouts, free healthcare. And by the way, you don't like, we are evil. And so when you come across as this self-hating person, of course, everybody around you, everybody's going to take your lead. Everybody's going to have nothing but contempt for you. This is like one of the red pills about like dating, like relationships and sexual attraction, is that generally people take the lead. You know, like when you are, especially in the case of a woman sizing up a man, the purpose of dating is she's trying to reconcile the actuality of who you are with who she perceives you to be. She wants to make sure that you are who she thinks you are. That's the purpose of dating. And it's no different than like when you have immigrants coming into your culture. If you're setting the lead and communicating to them that you are weak, pathetic, and your culture should be held in contempt, they're going to follow the lead and hold you in contempt. It's
well, even worse, that our culture is vapid and not a culture unto itself. And so please replace our culture with your own. They will willingly oblige. Believe
totally. Yeah. And I mean, I'm not blaming. I'm not saying like, us Americans, blah, blah, but there are the intellectual elites, specifically professors, those populating our integration courses and these sorts of things. It's like, oh God, American culture. No, celebrate your culture. Enrich us, please. We have nothing, you know? But you know, in the reality, if we were just, as a culture, had some semblance of self-esteem in our own culture, the Hispanics, they'd be fine. I think that a lot of them would probably vote right, if only because of the religious aspect. They're very Catholic. They don't really have a lot in common with the left at the end of the day. They just get bought with things, and then they are, you know, a lot of people have absolutely no self-esteem in their own culture. In terms of Americans. And then, and then the last thing I wanted to say, that Ted Cruz didn't say this explicitly, but he was implying it, that, the left, they need people to be victims. They will never celebrate.
Yeah. Yep.
You need to, like, anytime you hold a position, you should ask yourself, like, if you are wrong, is that a good or a bad thing? And if you being wrong is a good thing, then you should really seriously reevaluate your position. If you are a climate truther and global warming turns out to be false, you should be happy about that. If you are not, then you are an evil person. If you turn out to be wrong and Hispanics are actually better off under Trump and you're not happy about that, you are an evil person. If blacks turn out to be better under Trump and you are not happy about that, you are an evil person. So, like, if
Spygate ends up being unequivocally false and you are not happy about that, you are an evil person.
Absolutely,
straight up.
So if your positions are dependent upon misfortune, then you are evil. You need to reevaluate your positions.
Well said, man. Yep.
Well, do you want to go to do another drop and then get on?
Yeah, man. Let's do one more drop. I'm liking this so far, man. We've got about 33 minutes left. Well, 32 minutes left in the audio. Where you want to go to, man? I'm thinking about, like, we did 30. How about 45? Yeah, man. What do you think about 45?
Yeah, that's perfect. Let's do 45.
Okay, perfect. I'm at 44.58. Here it cometh, dear listener.
2020 race goes, because, you know, from my perspective, the president's got a very good record. Yeah. He's got a lot to run on. At the same time, he says things that alienate vast swaths of the American population. Where do you think this is going in 2020?
Listen, I'm worried about in 2020. I think it's 50-50. I think it's a coin flip. I think the country is deeply divided. It is an incredibly polarized country. And I think it all comes down to turnout. I think the left is going to show up in massive numbers. And it all comes down to who shows up on the center right. If
disagree,
conservatives stay home, if working class voters stay home, we could see devastating losses. We could see losing the White House and losing the Senate with massive harm to the country as a result. On the other hand, if we turn people out, we could have a great victory. We could retake the House and hold the White House and have the president reelected. I actually think a very good crystal ball for 2020 is what happened in 2018, and in particular in Texas in 2018. So if you look at the Texas Senate race where the media was all in, Beto O'Rourke raised over $80 million.
Fact.
He outspent us 3-1. Now, some people say, it's interesting, I hear sometimes, oh, come on, money doesn't matter in politics. Really? You typically hear that from people who never run for office, because money is the tool by which you communicate, particularly when the media is all in on the other side. Let me give you one example of how money matters in politics. My campaign in 2018 had 18 full-time campaign staffers. Beto O'Rourke's campaign had 805.
Dang.
18 to 805. Try any other battle with that kind of mismatch in terms of resources. And what ended up happening, the Democrats increased their turnout in the state of Texas more than 100%.
Fact.
1.8 million Democrats showed up in 2014, the last off-cycle election. 1.8 million. This time around, 4 million Democrats showed up. They increased from 1.8 million to 4 million. Now, thankfully, what we did is we turned out 4.2 million Republicans, and that 0.2 was the entire margin of victory. Now, how did we do that? Part of it was, at the end, I did a barnstorming tour of the state, got in a bus, and we did 50.
Yeah. So if I may prevail the lead on this for just a moment, listen, I like Ted Cruz a lot. I think he's out way over the front of his skis talking about the 2020 election. We don't even know who the nominee for the Democrat Party is right now. So for him to say that he's really concerned,
that's exactly what I was going to say.
It's way too early, bro. Listen, if it's Joe Biden, Donald Trump eats his lunch. If it's Kamala Harris, Donald Trump eats her alive. Cory Booker eats him alive. If it's Bernie Sanders, we got a problem here.
Well,
we got a serious problem.
I made a note for myself. My note was that it depends, but I actually then got to thinking about it, and I don't think it depends. And here's why. It's because the left is so fractured. It's like...
Yes. That's it.
I don't think the people that would vote for Joe Biden would vote for Bernie. And I don't think the people that vote for Bernie are going to be energized to go out and vote for Joe Biden.
Agreed.
So at first I was like, well, it depends. If it's Joe Biden, no, they're not going to get the turnout. Nobody cares about Joe Biden.
Right.
Funny, like, I think like Yang or Buttigieg might be able to have some sort of unifying coherence to get all those people out that Ted Cruz seems to be so concerned about. But I don't think the left is going to allow that to happen. I think that it's going to be Biden or it's going to be Bernie, and it's just neither one of those people are going to drive the kind of turnout that Trump will. And the other thing I was going to say about Beto is that yes, that's true. But that's actually very white pilling, everything that he said about that.
Indeed.
Because unlike the 2020 elections, I mean, Beto, he had everything going for him. He was outspending his opponent 3-1. He was his campaign staff was 40 times the size.
Yeah.
And he had the entire media cycle on him the entire time. Everybody, It was Beto. Oh my God, the next JFK. Oh. The media was obsessed with him. Everybody was in lockstep. The politicians were in lockstep. The media was in lockstep. They outspent him. They outstaffed him, and they still lost. They threw at literally everything that they had at Beto, and Beto still lost. So I think that's actually pretty white pilling. The fact that, I mean, now it's not in the sense that it's Texas, but, they increased their turnout over 100%. They can't do that in every state. It took everything to do that with one candidate in one state. They don't have the resources to do that in 50 states with all the candidates, including presidency. They don't. They just don't have the bandwidth for that. So just because that happened with Beto it's impossible. It's not going to happen with everybody.
Yeah, well said. I'm going to double down just a little bit on what Luke said. When Ted Cruz was just talking about Beto raising $80 million, something unprecedented in the history of American politics happened in that particular election. And that was another state trying to corrupt the election of
foreign interference
here in Texas.
Well, and another country, too.
Foreign interference. Yeah.
Mexico.
Yeah. Californian interference in the Texas election. Yeah.
And Mexico.
Yeah.
That's a foreign interference.
That too.
I mean, the Democrats are literally colluding with Mexico in a far more tangible way than anything Russia could have possibly done.
Absolutely, sir. Yeah. So like all of that money that Beto O'Rourke raised came from Hollywood, dear listener. It did not come from Texans. Now, listen, I'm here in Texas. Anecdotally speaking, I still see Beto stickers and Beto posters everywhere. I saw like maybe 2 Ted Cruz stickers, and he still won. He still won. Perhaps it's because this oppression, like what Ted Cruz just described, this assumption of defeat has seeped into Texas as well. He said that in that first drop, right? Now, the other thing I want to say about this is that, Luke, something rather remarkable has just happened this week with Dem primaries, and it go like this. Elizabeth Warren has passed up Bernie for the second place spot in polling. That's a fact.
Ah, Pocahontas.
Yes.
Not quite so oppressed as she was before.
Just so. Yeah. So like anyways, like these things are shifting. And so like I just want to reaffirm my original point. Ted Cruz is a little bit early to make a comment like that. And I think we responded appropriately. What say you? I think we're correct about this.
Yeah.
And Ted Cruz is almost correct.
Yeah, I agree. And I mean,
correct.
You know, this idea that Beto being funded by another state, let's harken back to one of our past shows, which is that Ocasio-Cortez was funded by basically nobody in her own district.
Absolutely,
this was not some grassroots campaign. This was everybody all over the country, like California and all sorts of other places funding that campaign, the Justice League Democrat PAC who funded her campaign. So these are people, and this further edifies the point that Trump needs to go to these places, because the first thing they're going to do is they're going to go, oh God, I can't be sending my money to some obscure district in New York. Oh God, I can't be sending my money to some guy in Texas. I've got to be sending my money here in California. Go on the offense. Don't allow them to be sending their money all over the country. That's the problem. Although that did drain a lot of money out of California, which is pretty hilarious.
Yeah, so it did. In vain. They were so black-pilled when Ted Cruz won, dude. It was glorious, man. The LA Times, SF Gate, reading the headlines, reading the articles, lol.
Yeah, dude.
It was fantastic. Yeah.
It's like, what?
Yeah.
What's the difference between John F. Kennedy and Beto O'Rourke? John F. Kennedy won.
Oh, dang. Well said.
I should make a meme out of that.
Yeah, absolutely, man. We'll put it on HSP t-shirts, you know? So, yeah.
All right, dude. Does that do it for episode 42?
I believe so, sir. I believe we put it down, man. Great show, brother.
Yeah, dude. Great show. As always, man. Always have fun with this.
Yes, indeed. All right, dear listener, thank you so much for riding this trail with us today, all 42 miles. We're going to set up camp right now, and Luke and I got the dominoes. We challenge any of you to a game of 42 right now.
That's right.
This is just a
joke. We got, dude, if we do our Zero Gravity Media meetup at my parents' farm, my dad has a specifically built 42 table where the
is that right?
The cup, he built it himself, where the cup holders are like down attached to the legs of the table so that you don't knock your beer off while you're playing dominoes.
Dang. Fantastic. All right, so dear listener, we throw down the gauntlet. Zero Gravity Media meetup. It cometh.
I've already got the green light for my parents to have it out at the farm, but Jessica and I need to figure out when we're actually going to be there and so on. So,
all right, very good, very good.
I mean, I should probably ask them again just to make sure, because that was like 3 months ago.
Yeah, fair enough. That's all good. We'll find someplace.
Yeah,
we'll find
not there, somewhere else.
We've got some land out here. Yeah, man. Yeah, we're good. Your place is a little bit nicer than mine. Mine's a little bit more rustic, you know, but still, nonetheless,
comfy.
Comfy though. Yes. All right, brother. Let's pitch camp. What say you?
Let's do it, man.
All right. Dear listener, once again, thank you so much. Luke, great show, brother. I can't wait for 43, man. Cannot wait.
Absolutely, man. Great show. Till episode 43.
Yes, sir.
All right. Peace.
Late.